motion. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor. Turn that kitty pat into a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen. I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this town, break the speed of sound. Tonight we all know. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart.
I'm here with Billy Gunn, sitting next to me right now.
You are kidding me. You're going
well,
to
see-
introduce me a lot better than that,
Well,
right?
okay.
That was about like watching grass grow.
My-
Let's be a little bit more enthusiastic. Let's get into this. This is going to be your best interview of the day. Here we go. Try it again.
I am here with one half of the greatest tag team of all time, Shogun. I am here with Billy Gunn.
Shogun.
One year ago, AEW did something very impressive. They put 20,000 people into Arthur Ashe Stadium. That was the highest attended pro wrestling event of any kind in New York City since 1980. And they did this in only their second full year of existence, which is unheard of. I didn't go to the show last year because I wasn't going to any shows at that point. I watch from the comfort of my own home like everybody else. I have been to that part of Queens many times before, many Mets games over at Citi Field. Been a lot of good moments there, also some very ugly moments as well. But I never had the chance, I never really had a reason to go to the tennis stadium next door. I'm not a big tennis guy. I wasn't going to the US Open, so I had never been in that building before. I did finally venture out to my first live AEW event in over 2.5 years. Been a very long time. Since they taped Dynamite aboard the Jericho cruise, actually, at the beginning of 2 years ago. It was the beginning of 2020. I got that cruise just in right under the radar. Little did I know that everything would be shut down 2 months later. But that was my last AEW event. I got to watch Dynamite floating on the high seas. But it had been even longer than that. I haven't been to an actual venue for an AEW show or a WWE show since the first Double or Nothing, which was way back in May of 2019. That was the very first AEW event of any kind. And this, as I look at the three that I have been part of, the very first one, the Jericho Cruise, and the one from last night, I would say, if I had to rank them, I would put this one at number 2. I would put this one right in the middle as far as my level of enjoyment. It's hard to beat the first Double or Nothing. You had Cody and Dustin, which is still one of the greatest matches this company has ever produced. You had the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros. You had Jon Moxley's debut. I mean, I'm sitting there third row in Vegas. That, to me, is still number 1 on the list. But last night was one of the best Dynamites I thought of the entire year. I thought it was an excellent show. Some bad finishes. Excellent does not mean perfect. There were some bad finishes on this show. The finishes to a lot of the matches, honestly, I thought were a weak point. Although At least some of them were due to some kind of story that's ongoing involving the referees, which we'll get into. I'll explain what I mean by that. AEW put somewhere between 12 and 13,000 people, somewhere probably closer to 13K in that range in Arthur Ashe Stadium last night. Still a very good number, but down from almost 20,000 or around 20,000 is what they had last year. But since ticket prices in some cases were double what they were last year, they made more money. They had a much bigger gate on the show this year than they did last year. In fact, not only was it a bigger gate, it was the first $1 million gate this company has ever done for an episode of Dynamite. They've had $1 million gates for some of their pay-per-views before. Never before for a live TV show has AEW had $1 million gate. That is what they had in New York City last night. I don't know. And by the way, I know that. How do I know this? I know this because Tony Khan got on the microphone at the end of the show and he yelled at us. He shouted it as loudly as he possibly could. I don't think Tony Khan fully understands how these microphones work. They project into the entire arena. Everybody who's sitting up in the bleachers, I mean, they could hear everything that he's saying. You don't have to. Someone has to teach Tony Khan that there's an inside voice that he needs to use. So yes, Tony Khan was very animated and very excited, and he told us all as loudly as possible about this company's $1 million gate last night. But whatever it was, look, he was very happy. He was very happy. I don't know if it was, the cups of coffee he was having. I don't know if it was the booger sugar. I don't know what it was, but he was very animated and very happy. And look, I guess I would be happy too if I just did my first $1 million gate for live TV. Last year, the only thing that really stands out to me when I think back to that first Grand Slam show, the only thing I really remember that stands out to me is Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. They went one-on-one that night. They had a 30-minute time limit draw. That was a special match. That was a special attraction. First time those two had been in the ring together since before Danielson even went to WWE. It had been a very long time. And that's really the only thing I remember when I think back to last year's show. This year, we crowned a new AEW World Champion. Bryan Danielson was back in a feature match on this show, this time competing for the World Championship. A familiar face in Jon Moxley, once again, the AEW World Champion, the first man in the history of this company to be a 3-time World Champion. They even put it up on the screen. I went back and watched it on TV. It said right there, first ever 3-time AEW World Champion. Some people might not consider it 3 times because he was an interim champion. He had the world title. It counts. That makes him a 3-time champion. First guy to ever do that. We have new tag team champions. The Acclaimed went to New York City as the challengers. They leave New York City as the new tag team champions with a win over Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. They finally get their big moment. Chris Jericho is the new Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, the 8th world title of his career. The WCW title he won was technically in WWE, just like the ROH title he just won. He won it on an AEW show, but still an 8-time world champion. And Paige made her AEW debut, going under her real name of Saraya. It was only a few months ago on her Twitch that somebody asked her a question about possibly going to AEW, and she joked, and she said, sure, if the money was right, sure, I'd go to AEW. Well, Tony Khan must have made her an offer that she couldn't refuse. She also said at the time that she still wasn't medically cleared. And this was only a few months ago. This was maybe in June. So there are still a lot of questions as to exactly what her role is going to be here in this company. The report, and I think this was from Fightful yesterday, is that WWE was trying to get her to come back. Ever since Triple H took over, they were either trying to make a play or they did make a play to try to get her back in the company. Evidently, it didn't work. Or if they made an offer, the offer that Tony Khan made to her was more attractive. I think that the fact that she chose AEW could have to do with the fact that they may be more willing to let her back into the ring. Think of all the years she spent in WWE getting paid good money on a contract, not doing any wrestling at all. Maybe Tony Khan said, hey, you want to get back in the ring? If our doctors say it's okay, use our canvas. Our canvas is your canvas. Maybe that's what got her to make the decision that she made. But she made her first appearance last night. And of all the reactions, being there live in the building, and I'll sprinkle in a lot of my thoughts here as I go along, as somebody who was in the building last night. I think of the reaction that the Acclaimed got. I think of the reaction that Moxley and Danielson got in the main event. I think of a lot of the reactions, some of the reactions during Rampage. Of all the reactions last night, Paige got the biggest reaction of the... Actually, you know what? She might be tied with somebody else. I don't want to give it away just yet. But the reaction that she got in the building was unbelievable. There's a reason why she went on Twitter today and said, wow, like, holy shit. The reaction that you guys gave me is something I'll never forget. That building came unglued when they saw her not even her stage name, but her real name. They knew exactly who it was. When she came out, she got a tremendous ovation. So whatever her role is going to be in this company, it is incumbent now upon Tony Khan to make sure that he makes full use of her. Because, as if you couldn't tell from the reaction last night, this woman is a star. This is a woman who has not wrestled in 5 years. This is a woman who has not been on television in many years. She still comes out there, only 30 years old. She walks out there and gets that kind of reaction. That's star power that you can't manufacture. That's star power that Tony Khan can use, but it's up to him how he uses it. He's not done the best of jobs with this women's division. I think that goes without saying. So there are a lot of questions about what Paige is going to be doing, but more importantly, how is Tony Khan going to use her? Whether she can wrestle or not, what is Tony Khan going to do? Great first night. What happens on night 2? What happens on night 3? What happens a month from now? Or does she end up right where so many other people have landed? On a roster that is full of ex-WWE talents, on a roster that is just filled to the brim and just bloated with talent. Debut one day, get a big reaction. 2 months later, they're on Dark. Or 2 months later, you're wondering, where are they? Are they still working for the company? Are they still employed? Is the same thing going to happen to Paige? So we have to wait and see on that. So there's a lot to unpack. This is your AEW Dynamite review, your Dynamite Grand Slam review for Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. I am the Solomonster. I do believe that it is 25 years ago today, to this very day, that Vince McMahon ate his first Stone Cold Stunner on Monday Night Raw at Madison Square Garden. I believe so. I believe it was September 22nd, 1997. So how about that? The first of many horrible stunners that Vince McMahon took from Steve Austin took place today, 25 years ago. Not only are we going to talk about Dynamite here, we're going to talk about Rampage. I have Rampage spoilers for you. I stayed for the entire show. I got to see something very cool that you will not get to see until it airs on TV tomorrow night. If you do not want any Rampage spoilers when I get to that part of the review, once Dynamite is done, I will warn you. I will give you a heads up. I am doing Rampage tonight. I'm not doing Rampage tomorrow. Tomorrow night will be SmackDown only when we come back live on YouTube. So tonight we're doing all the AEW stuff. So just be forewarned. Hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Super chats are open. If you do send any on in, and I hope you do, I will read them later and I will answer any questions you may have. So get those on in. And 650 is the magic number tonight. If you want to do Be the Booker, we haven't done Be the Booker in almost a week. If you want the Be the Booker segment, I'm only going to say it once. I'll leave it up to the mods in the chat to remind you. But 650 likes at least on the live stream is what we need to get there. So I want to talk a little bit first just about the length of the show. Because I did mention that I stayed for the entire thing last night. And all of it, the entire show, including Rampage, did not end until well after midnight. By the time the final match ended and we actually got out of the building, it was about 20-1 as we were exiting the building. Okay, so it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't care how good the show is. I don't care if it's WWE. I don't care if it's AEW. I don't care if it's New Japan. I don't care what promotion it is. Unless you're going to one of those midnight shows that they do over WrestleMania weekend. You know, sometimes they'll have like an independent promotion, GCW or something that, you know, they have like a midnight event. that's a whole different story. There is no reason for a professional wrestling event to go beyond midnight. There's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for that. It's the reason I stopped going to the WrestleManias, because I couldn't take it anymore. WrestleMania in Orlando, Undertaker is disrobing at the end of the show after he lost to Roman Reigns. It's 12:15 in the morning. I've been in the stadium since 5:30 in the afternoon. WrestleMania, the last WrestleMania I went to, was the one in New Jersey back in 2019. They didn't even send the women to the ring for the main event until around midnight. And you wonder why the crowd died. During that main event with Ronda and Becky and Charlotte, it started raining too a little bit, but it's too much. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. So I at least am consistent in the way I feel about this. It's not a WWE thing or an AEW only thing. And WWE, hey, to their credit, I know not everybody likes the idea of 2-night WrestleManias, but they had enough sense to be like, all right, look, if we're going to fit this many people on the show, we're going to divide it up into 2 nights, which does help a lot. So at least they had enough sense to do that. But it was a very long show. It was exhausting, way too long. And again, before some wise ass chimes in and says, oh, you knew that it was a 2-hour Rampage this week, so I don't know why you would be so surprised. Yes, I was well aware of the fact that Rampage was going to be a 2-hour show this week. It doesn't change the fact that it's still too fucking long. I don't see what one has to do with the other. Yes, I knew that going into it. And it was still too fucking long. I don't care what anybody says. That's fine. If you're watching it on TV tomorrow night, you're going to get a 2-hour Rampage. It's actually a hell of a show. You're going to have a lot of fun, I think, watching that Rampage show tomorrow night. They're going to have to do a hell of an editing job because that thing went well over 2 hours. So I don't even know exactly what they're going to cut, but they're going to have to cut some stuff. That's a decision that they're going to have to make. But they had an hour before the show. All right, I don't even know exactly what time gates open. It might have been 6:30. And I believe they only taped 2 matches. I think they taped 2 dark elevation matches, I believe, and that was it before the show started. There's no reason why you can't take at least 2 of those 7 matches that you taped during Rampage and tape them before Dynamite, and then do the rest after Dynamite is over. Split them up. Take 2 or 3, do them at the beginning, and take the other 3 or 4 and do them at the very end. There you go. I know there's always going to be a concern. Oh, you might burn the crowd out before Dynamite starts. You want to start hot when you go live on the air. I think it would have been perfectly fine. So they could have done that. I don't know why they didn't. Nobody gives a fuck about dark. Who cares? You want 2 dark matches, dark elevation. Tape them some other time. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. They could have easily taped some of those Rampage matches before the show began. But not that it mattered anyway. I didn't get to see any of the dark matches regardless because we weren't even inside the building yet. So it didn't really make a difference. I didn't get into my seat until about 10 minutes into Dynamite. So I missed whatever matches they taped before the show started. And then I missed the first 10 minutes of Dynamite. So the whole, Judas entrance and all that. I wasn't there for that. And that's our fault. We got there later than we should have. Because we all, the group that I went with, we all made a decision. We don't give a shit about dark. So we don't need to get there in time for the dark matches. So that was the decision that we made. But once we got there, my buddy had a prepaid parking pass. And it was a prepaid parking pass for the main lot. So that when we got there, got the main parking lot, and it would have been a very easy, straight shot into Arthur Ashe Stadium. Not realizing that the Rolling Loud Festival, Rolling Loud is the biggest hip-hop festival in the world. Rolling Loud is at Citi Field this weekend, starting tomorrow. Well, we didn't know that. So Rolling Loud is taking up, there's tents everywhere in the main lot. They're taking up all these parking spaces. So we get to the stadium, we get to the lot, and they're like, oh, the lot's all full. You got to go to the overfill lot, or the overflow lot. Great. Well, where's the overflow lot? Well, that's across the way over there. So we had to go out of our way just to park up over there because Rolling Loud took up so many parking spots, I guess, that there weren't enough of the people, even the ones who prepaid. So we parked. Now we have to walk. And according to my Apple Watch, it was about 1.5 miles right? So we're already running behind the 8 ball here. It's almost 8 o'clock. We've parked in the overflow lot. And all they tell you is, okay, you got to go down. You got to make a right. You're going to go all the way down. You're going to make another right. And then you're going to go all the way. It's like you're walking in a circle, right? So we're walking around Citi Field, right? I'm getting to see the sights. Oh, there's Citi Field and there's, Shea Boulevard or whatever the hell it is. It was about a 1.5 mile walk. And by the time we got to the building, I could hear people were reacting to something. So I knew the show had already started. So anyway, I sat down right in the middle of the Ring of Honor World Championship match between Chris Jericho and the champion Claudio Castagnoli. I got to my seat right after Jericho suplexed him off the apron. They both took a hard bump to the floor. The building looked pretty filled in. Obviously, they didn't sell as many tickets as they did last year, nor did they open up all of the sections, because pretty much all of the sections in the upper level were empty. And you can see where there were pockets of empty seats. So it was a mostly full building. It looked good. It looked mostly filled in, but by no means was it, anywhere close to being sold out. And the stage, look, I wish they would be a little more creative when it comes to the stages for some of their bigger shows. It's possible in this building, given the size, maybe they couldn't do anything other than what they did, but I thought it looked fine. They had that ramp. It was an elevated ramp. It was not flat. It was kind of at a slant, and it had an animation to it, which if you're walking on that ramp, it's got to be a mind fuck, because it was moving like a road. Although from up where we were sitting, it looked like a treadmill or something. But I guess that was supposed to be like a road or a street. It was constantly in motion. So visually, it looked fine. But you had the 2 tunnels. It was pretty much your standard AEW set, but a little bit different from the way it was at Arthur Ashe last year. Jericho countering that super Ricola bomb off the top into a Rana was very impressive. Again, Jericho's 51 years old. He's been doing this for a very long time. And it will never not be impressive for me to see him pulling off stuff like that. Kind of like seeing Dustin. Every match Dustin has these days, he's busting out the code red and stuff. But, he nails it every time. And it's still very impressive to see him, after all these years, doing moves like that. I feel the same way about Jericho. Claudio got almost 20 spins. He got almost 20 revolutions on the giant swing that he gave to Jericho. And it looked like all that spinning made both of them a little woozy. How could they not be? Made them a little woozy. Because right after, he gave Jericho a slingshot, but I guess Jericho was too far away. So he hit the slingshot, and Jericho kind of had to fall forward into the corner, which looked a little wonky. And a little while later, Jericho backdropped his way out of a powerbomb, and Claudio landed on his feet. Now, he stuck the landing. He landed on his feet. But the spot was that he was supposed to fall forward into the corner where the referee was, and it was going to look like he's either about to crush Aubrey Edwards and stops himself, or he's kind of headed in that direction. But he landed on his feet, and he had to lunge forward. So it looked completely ridiculous. It looked awful because they continued with the spot anyway. He stops himself so he doesn't go into the referee. And Aubrey is disposing of Jericho's baseball bat, which he had introduced into the match. While she's doing that, Jericho kicks Claudio low, turns around, connects with the Judas effect, and he gets the pinfall to become the Ring of Honor World Champion for the very first time in his career. All of the members of the JAS, they come out to celebrate with Jericho on the ramp. Daniel Garcia, he's the Ring of Honor Pure Champion. He's got a look on his face like just a look of just sheer disappointment. Not very happy with the way that Jericho went and won the match. Ian Riccaboni on commentary, because again, I did go back and watch the TV version this morning. He was disgusted with how Jericho won the match, called it the antithesis of what the ROH initials have meant. Garcia looked ashamed on how Jericho won the match. And again, there was a segment that aired later in the show. I thought this was part of Dynamite, but I guess not, because on the TV version, it wasn't on there. And I know I didn't dream it, so this is probably going to air on Rampage tomorrow night. But there was a backstage segment where, the whole JAS are being interviewed, and Garcia is telling Jericho, I need to talk to you. Like, can I talk to you? And Jericho's just kind of blowing him off. He's in a celebratory mood. He's like, nah, he goes, come on, yeah, I got a belt, you got a belt. And so they're going to have a segment on Dynamite next week. It's going to be kind of like an appreciation celebration. So that'll be, taking place on the show next week. But this is what you call storytelling. What you're seeing play out with Jericho and Daniel Garcia, this is storytelling. Now, Claudio, this was his 5th title defense since winning the belt from Jonathan Gresham back in July. He defended it successfully against Konosuke Takeshita, Dustin Rhodes, Arya Daivari, and Dax Harwood. The matches with Takeshita and Harwood were very good. Those were the best of the title defenses that Claudio had. 2 months with the title wasn't enough. I was not expecting him to drop the championship here. But they're telling a story with Jericho and Garcia. And I don't want to hear people, and I still hear it all the time. I heard Bischoff, again, was talking about this the other day. And I'll talk more about Bischoff because somebody sent in an email to the podcast about something he said, part of which I actually agree with. But I hear Bischoff and I hear people on my timeline, still saying, oh, it's all just matches. There's no stories. There's absolutely no stories in AEW. And that tells me that person doesn't watch AEW because there's been plenty of stories in AEW. Right? And there's been plenty of really good stories in AEW. CM Punk and MJF had a pretty good story going for a while. It's too bad they couldn't continue it here in the fall. That's not MJF's fault. But they told a story. There's been tons of stories. There's one playing out right now with Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia. You don't have to like the story. You don't have to like Daniel Garcia. You may think he's boring. You may think he's dull. You might not see what the big deal is. But that's a fucking story that is playing out. That was the whole point of Jericho winning the championship here. I would have had Claudio retain the title, but this is the story that clearly now they are telling. They're telling the story of Chris Jericho being as unhonorable or dishonorable of a Ring of Honor champion as that promotion has ever had. He won the title by cheating. Daniel Garcia is ashamed by this. He finds it disgraceful. You can see it in the look on his face when he walked out during the show. This is a long-term story that they're telling with these two. They've been telling it now for a while, going back before All Out. Remember, him and Danielson, or the battle for the soul of Daniel Garcia. They kept doing cutaways to Garcia during the match, or before the match, after the match, between Jericho and Danielson. So this is part of a longer story that they are telling with these two. And this is part of the next chapter of what I have to assume what will ultimately be Daniel Garcia breaking away from the Jericho Appreciation Society. He will come to realize, look, this is not what I signed up for. You know what, Chris? You helped me out a lot. You donated to my GoFundMe when I had my car accident all those years ago when I was a nobody and nobody really knew who I was. I felt indebted to you. You were looking out for me. You wanted me to be part of this new group you were starting up. How could I say no? I turned myself into a sports entertainer. And now I've come to realize what a mistake this was. This is not who I am. I'm a pro wrestler. That's storytelling. There's no other word for it. Just because you don't like the story doesn't mean that there is no story being told. So every time I hear somebody call out AEW, and there's a lot of things you can call AEW and Tony Khan out for. Whether you think it's bad booking or the way he books the women's division or whatever it might be. But I will never not miss an opportunity to shame somebody for claiming to me that AEW does not tell stories and it's simply just matches that they're throwing out there. And there's nothing else going on. You are a fool. You sound like a moron. There's a story playing out with these two right here. So I'm okay with Jericho winning the title because it is part of this story. The other thing that this finish makes me wonder, as far as putting the championship on Chris Jericho, is if we may finally be close to an announcement about an ROH TV deal. Tony Khan recently said that he is in active discussions with the folks at Warner about a potential Ring of Honor television show. These are conversations that they are having right now. They are talking about the possibility, and I have no idea if that would be turning Rampage into a Ring of Honor show. I assume not. I don't think Tony Khan wants to lose Rampage. I assume it's about an extra hour or two of television, whether it's on TNT or TBS or maybe a streaming service, to give Ring of Honor an actual platform on television. Right now, they have nothing. They don't even have a YouTube show. I still don't understand why they can't take either Dark or Dark Elevation and just make it a Ring of Honor show until they have an actual TV deal. I mean, are they afraid? Do they not think it's going to have a big enough audience? And, Warner is going to look at the YouTube views and say, wait a minute. This Ring of Honor thing can't even get 300,000 views on YouTube. We're going to give them a TV slot? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Because by now they should have at least been able to do that while they wait for a TV deal. And I made the comment when this match was over. I said, Tony Khan now has to, get a move on as far as what the television future is going to be for Ring of Honor. And then I thought more about it. I said, well, maybe that has something to do with why Chris Jericho now is the Ring of Honor World Champion. He's got much greater name recognition than Claudio does. He's a bigger name. He's a bigger star than Claudio is. And look what they did with Jericho in AEW in year one. He was the first AEW World Champion. And why do you think that is? Because he's Chris Jericho. Because he had all those years of equity built up in WCW and WWE. He was a major name from an era that people associate with, this is like the golden age of wrestling, right? This is when wrestling was at its most popular. And Chris Jericho was one of the names that was part of that whole Attitude Era and the eras that came immediately after that. So his name does have value. Dynamite last week did almost 1.2 million viewers for a show built around a main event of Chris Jericho against Bryan Danielson. So putting the Ring of Honor World title on Jericho could very well be a sign that Tony Khan feels like maybe this will help and maybe they are that much closer to an actual, TV deal. It gives the brand more star power. Chris Jericho now is the world champion. Samoa Joe is the TV champion. FTR are the Ring of Honor tag team champions. And those are the names and those are the faces now that they are going to build the Ring of Honor brand around. But they do need TV. The Acclaimed against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. What a reaction live for the Acclaimed. This is one of the things I was looking forward to the most, was the Acclaimed coming out and making their entrance here in New York City. I could not even hear Max Caster's rap. I have no idea what he said. I had to go back and watch on TV. So I know he mentioned, Cuomo, the former governor of New York. But I still really, I don't know what Caster said in his rap. I think the last thing he mentioned was he made a glory hole joke about Swerve and Keith Lee, which is low-hanging fruit. I mean, Swerve in our glory hole is the easiest joke in the world to make. But it got a big reaction. I couldn't hear what he was saying at the moment when he said it, but the place was going nuts. Everybody rose to their feet. And it was so loud, and the sound system, frankly, was such shit. Anytime anybody took the microphone, it was hard to hear what anybody was saying. But yeah, I couldn't even hear what he was saying. Hey, maybe that's why Tony Khan was screaming into the microphone. Maybe he realized that the sound on the mic was so terrible that he felt he had to scream into the microphone to communicate his message. Maybe that's why. This match here was, I thought, not as good as their match at All Out. I still thought it was a very good match, but I liked the pay-per-view match more. Swerve tried to cheap shot Caster with the boombox, but missed and hit Keith Lee by accident. Not the first time. Not the first time that Swerve and Keith Lee have had a miscommunication of some kind. I see all the scissors. Everybody's got to get all the scissors in the chat ready, right? Scissor me. I want everybody to scissor me in the live chat. Hey, Drew Johnson dropping $50 in Super Chat. Drew, on a Thursday night, showing love. Thank you, Drew. Swerve in our glory hole is one hell of a slogan, says Sean. It's not the slogan I would go with, but to each their own. So the boombox spot happens, and Swerve accidentally hits Keith Lee. And at that moment, the crowd here in Arthur Ashe, you could feel a change come over the crowd. Now everybody got excited. Everybody got back up to their feet. They felt like this was culminating in the big moment. This was the moment they were waiting for. And Caster and Bowens, right? They scissored each other. Bowens went up to the top rope and he hit a top rope blockbuster to put Lee down. Caster went up top to set up for the mic drop finish. And then he comes off the top rope and he just lands on his feet. And he starts selling a knee injury. And you could feel the air in the crowd just whoosh, just like completely go out of the crowd in Arthur Ashe Stadium. It was starting to get electric in the building. It was loud as fuck. And all of a sudden it got quiet because everybody thought either he botched the landing, which is what it looked like to me, or he got hurt legitimately. They thought maybe he jammed his knee or something happened to his knee because it just felt like this was the finish. This was the big climactic moment here. And then all of a sudden, this guy, he lands awkwardly. Because from my vantage point, I went back and watched on TV and they didn't show a replay of it or anything. It didn't look like Swerve, shoved him off the rope. Swerve was out on the floor. So it didn't look like Swerve shoved him off the top or shook the ropes or anything like that. He just landed very awkwardly, and I thought he was hurt. I thought he was legitimately hurt. Now, I know they were doing some work on his knee a little bit earlier in the match, but, right before this spot, he was moving around pretty good. It wasn't like he was just selling the knee for the entire time. So, at first, to me, it didn't look like a sell job, and it just took the air out of the building. That right there, that should have been the moment. And it came across that way on TV when I went back and watched it, but even more so in the building. And at least in my section, people were like head in hands, like, oh God, he got hurt or, something happened. Honestly, the other thought that I had is that he landed awkwardly and he was so embarrassed that he just started feigning a knee injury. Just to cover for the fact that, I blew the spot. That's also what I was thinking may have happened there in that moment. Looking back on it now, I think it was intentional, but boy, did that, you're right. M sunned in the chat. Maybe he stumbled as he came off. I would love to know if that whole thing played out the way that it was supposed to. It didn't look that way to me. And if it did play out the way that it was supposed to, that was a misfire on their part. To their credit, though, the fans were so into the Acclaimed, they did get them right back into the match. So for that minute or two after it felt like, oh God, this looks like it's falling apart, there was another spot that looked kind of awkward, but they got the crowd back into it because they desperately wanted to see these two men win that title. Billy Gunn dropped Swerve on the floor with a Famouser. That led to Caster finally hitting the mic drop on his second try and getting the pin to win the tag team titles. The place exploded. They shot confetti, I think out of the ring post, but they shot confetti into the air. And it's a great story to have a homegrown team. Only the second homegrown team in AEW history, really, to win the tag team titles. They're second to Jurassic Express, to go out there and to be the AEW World Tag Team Champions. The Young Bucks were already established. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page were already established somewhere else. The Lucha Brothers, they were well known. They were established elsewhere, at least Lucha Underground. Can't call them homegrown. FTR. Really, it's Jurassic Express and now the Acclaimed. Two young homegrown guys who got over organically. The crowd took to them, and not because they go out there and have great wrestling matches. They don't go out there and have bad wrestling matches, but they're not known for going out there and having these big spot fests or, these 20 or 30 minute classic types of matches. It's their personalities that got them over. It's their personalities. It's their charisma. It's Max Caster coming out and rapping every week. The raps are really a big part of it. But even Anthony Bowens, when he was sitting in a wheelchair for months, he was wheelchair bound on TV for months. And that guy had more charisma in his pinky finger than most people on the roster. adding Billy Gunn to the act was actually genius, but it was almost like it just kind of happened that way. I don't think that was the long-term plan to have Billy Gunn become their manager. Billy Gunn was already managing his own sons. But people took to this whole scissor me daddy ass thing. It's such a stupid thing, but that's what happens. That's what happens in wrestling. Sometimes it's the stupid shit that you don't expect that gets over. Look at Billy Gunn. Look at Billy Gunn and the way he got over with Road Dogg. Road Dogg was the real Jesse James, and Billy Gunn was Rockabilly coming out with the honky tonk man every fucking week. Nobody gave a shit about Rockabilly. So they put the two of them together to say, look, these two guys have nothing going on. Let's just put them together. Maybe they'll work well. Maybe they'll complement each other. And they ended up becoming a hugely successful tag team in WWE. Not because they were going out there and having classic tag team matches, but because it was the Road Dogg coming out and doing his whole intro and Billy Gunn saying, I got 2 words for you. It was their personalities. It was their charisma. So in a way, it's kind of appropriate that Billy Gunn would be there, right there at ringside in their corner to watch this whole thing play out and unfold. It just worked out the way that it did. And they are one of the most over acts in the entire company. And when you have an act like that, when something gets over like that, even if it's something that you weren't planning for, listen to the audience. You embrace it, you go with it. And that's what AEW did. You run with it. And we got to see the payoff last night. This is what you call listening to your audience and giving the people what they want. This right here, the Acclaimed, is a perfect example of that. You could see it on Tony Khan's face at the All Out scrum. After Phil was done having his muffins, and the talent actually that was there to talk about the show, when they came into the scrum, he had Keith Lee, he had Swerve, and they were talking about the match and the huge reaction that the crowd had in Chicago to the Acclaimed. And you could see it on Tony Khan's face. He had this eureka moment, boy, wouldn't it sure be nice if we had a rematch and maybe we do it in New York. Maybe we do it at Arthur Ashe Stadium. The wheels were already going in his head. He already knew what the destination was going to be. If he didn't know going into that pay-per-view, when that all-out show was over, he knew who his next tag team champions were going to be and when. You could see it on his face. He already had it all mapped out because he could listen to the audience. Sometimes the audience knows what they want. They know what they're talking about. They know exactly what it is that they want, and he gave it to them, and we got the payoff, and I thought it was great. Being there live in the building was a lot of fun to be able to experience that kind of reaction. FTR, I mentioned them. They were interviewed in the back and interrupted by the Ass Boys. And it is criminal. It is criminal that they had FTR in the building last night. No match on Dynamite. No match on Rampage. They didn't get an entrance in the building or anything. How does that work? Now, I know Dax is pretty beat up. So unless he's got injuries that are more severe than we're aware of, I think he has a torn labrum. But he's been working on that for some time. Kenny Omega worked almost an entire year on a torn labrum. So unless they're just giving Dax some time to kind of rest and heal up, and there's some reason for it that we're not aware of, I don't know how you have a big show like this in New York City and don't put FTR on either of these shows. It's just crazy to me. So we had Tony Schiavone out next on stage to interview Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. I have to tell you, MJF, almost immediately, MJF interrupted, right? They played his music, and of course, he got a huge reaction from the crowd. I have never seen so many Burberry scarves in one place at the same time in my entire life. And I'm just speaking for the section that I was sitting in, which was section 117. All I saw people with the same fucking scarf around their neck. You could see it all over the building. So Burberry scarves as far as the eye could see. MJF comes out, right? He's a Long Island guy. He's not from Queens, but he's a New York guy. So he got kind of a hometown reaction there. I don't think it's just hometown. I think people they want to cheer for MJF. So he came out and he said the devil has arrived, and he called all of his legions of fans, he called them devil worshippers. He said that Yuta would never get a reaction like the one that he just heard. Said the fans worship him, and there wasn't a man in the building who wouldn't let him sleep with his wife, but He wouldn't do that because even he has standards. And he called himself a generational talent. Yuta interrupted him and said, you know what? It's true. It is true. MJF, you are indeed a generational talent. He said he's also the master of going after the low-hanging fruit. And he brought up MJF's engagement, which was big news on the internet this past week, that MJF is engaged to be married to his longtime girlfriend. So he brought up the engagement. He said, you know what? Unlike you, I'm not going to go there. And he said that MJF's fiance is smart, and she'll walk out on MJF just like he walked out on all of us. And MJF told the fans to give it up for Wheeler Yuta, going from drying paint to pet rock personality. Said that Yuta was in the Blackpool Cuckold Club, and said that Moxley and Danielson were fighting to see not who would be the next AEW World Champion. They're fighting to see who the man is going to be that is going to lose to MJF. And everybody cheered. He said that Yuta could go ask William Regal to teach him how to pop pills. And at that point, he got popped right in the face. Wheeler smacked him. So then MJF came back and he headbutted Yuta right in the head and turned around and he shoved down Tony Schiavone. And Tony Schiavone took this slow motion bump down to the floor. Because Tony is in his early 60s and Tony is not a trained wrestler. He shouldn't be taking bumps. Look, you get past a certain age, you fall and hurt your hip. That's the beginning of the end. I hear stories like that all the time. I've had family members like that, grandparents, great-grandparents. When you fall and break your hip, that's bad news. That's especially the older you are. So I don't blame Tony for not wanting to take some kind of full-on bump here. But he did take a bit of a bump. He did fall to the ground. And he got massively booed for doing that. MJF did. It was smart. If they were looking for a way to get MJF booed in New York, where they knew he was going to get cheered, they used Tony Schiavone because Tony Schiavone is beloved. And it really is I was thinking about this as I heard the reaction from the crowd. I was thinking of the fact how beloved he really is. It's amazing how he has been able to rehabilitate his image. Because Tony Schiavone had a certain image from the dying days of WCW. People used to make fun of him, the greatest night in the history of our sport, and all that kind of stuff. And towards the end, he looked completely disinterested, like he didn't even want to be there. And I can't even blame him for that, because the dying days of WCW were pretty fucking bad. There were a lot of people, I'm willing to bet, who didn't want to be there, but they were there for the paycheck. So he kind of had this reputation as, not being, either being overrated or not being that great or not caring about his job. And it didn't help that Bobby Heenan in his book had a lot of bad things to say about Tony. Tony was like one of the few people that Bobby really didn't like. And he would go off on him and call him a fraud and all this other stuff. And he didn't care about the fans. And, he didn't think very highly of Tony Schiavone. And so Tony got out of the wrestling business, and all these years went by, and he was doing, minor league baseball and I think maybe football broadcasts on the radio. And then he comes back years ago, he comes back in MLW. And from the moment he came back in MLW and he was back doing wrestling again, and then AEW starts up and Tony Khan hires him. And it's just given him this whole new lease on life as far as his wrestling career. Now he's looked at the way that Jim Ross used to be looked at. A lot of people look at Jim Ross now and they're like, he's older and he's missing a few steps and he makes a lot of mistakes and he's not what he used to be. He's still Jim Ross. I still think he's the greatest to ever do it. But there's a lot of people who call out Jim Ross for a lot of the mistakes he makes and some of the stupid shit that he says sometimes. But Jim Ross used to be, the Holy Grail, and everybody would hold him up on a pedestal and everything, and he was so beloved, and that's kind of the role Tony Schiavone is in now. Even the talent behind the scenes in AEW, I've heard them refer to him like he's like an uncle or something. They look to him for advice, and they all love Tony Schiavone. So all that to say, it was very smart to use him as a way to get heat on MJF, because you knew the minute somebody put their hands on Tony, they were going to get booed. And the people did not like that very much. So that was pretty much the crux of that segment. Morrissey came out, W. Morrissey. He held Yuta. MJF hit him in the head with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And that was pretty much the end of the segment. We did not get any long-winded Stokely Hathaway promos on TV this week. Bryant in the chat says, no Jim Ross last night. We had Jim Ross on Rampage. And that's actually the way it's worked now. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I think 3 or 4 weeks now, Jim Ross has not done commentary on Dynamite. That's a Tony Khan call. He has had Jim Ross exclusively on Rampage. I got to tell you, I almost didn't even notice. I'm fine with the move. It's almost kind of sad, but I haven't really noticed that he's been missing. I don't really mind it if they want to either limit his role or just kind of keep him on Rampage as a way to, I guess, lend a credible voice to the Rampage shows. I don't think it's going to help the ratings. It's not having any impact on the ratings at all, but yes, Jim Ross was there last night. He got an entrance in front of the live crowd and everything, but he was not on Dynamite. We had Pac and Orange Cassidy for the All-Atlantic Championship. Finally, the Orange Imposter and I find each other in the same place at the same time. For all of you who think that he has been cosplaying as me or I have been cosplaying as him. How do you explain that? Right? We're in the same place at the same time. Now you can't say that anymore. Cassidy hit the orange punch and had the pin later in the match. Pac reached up though, and Pac grabbed the bottom rope for the rope break. He went out to the floor. He was leaning up against the timekeeper's table. And we could see it on the big screen, but the referee couldn't see the fact that Pac grabbed the hammer that goes with the ring bell. When Cassidy came over, he grabbed the headlock and he hit Cassidy in the head with the hammer. Again, referee's view was obstructed. The referee didn't see a thing. He rolled Cassidy back in the ring. And by the way, not the first time on the show that the referee missed something important during a match. Basically, the referees were made to look pretty incompetent on this show. But that's the case with AEW, frankly, on most weeks. These referees are made to look fucking incompetent every single week on this show. This was no different. So he rolled Cassidy back inside. He pinned him to retain the title. I thought this was a very lame finish to an otherwise fun match. Pac is fucking great. Let me just say that. Pac is fucking great. And him and Orange Cassidy, they're so contrasting in their styles. Because they've had a few matches already. This is not their first time having a match together. And I love seeing these two in the ring together. Cassidy still has yet to get a win over Pac. Pac did beat him. I think it was with the Brutalizer at Revolution in their match last year. They had a match on Dynamite last May. So this was in 2021. But they had a match on TV that might have been a number one contenders match that ended up with no winner. And that's how we got a triple threat at Double or Nothing that year with Kenny Omega, Orange Cassidy, and Pac. So before last night, those are the only matches they had. And of course, now Pac got another win. So Cassidy still can't get that win over Pac. And clearly they're building to at least one more match between these two. I still think Pac is going to be dropping that championship to Cassidy. Probably at Full Gear. I still think that Pac is going to lose the All-Atlantic title to Orange Cassidy. Cassidy will eventually get that first win over him. I mentioned the incompetence of the officiating on this show. Tony Khan tweeted the following. I want to read you something that Tony Khan tweeted earlier this afternoon. Congrats to referee Paul Turner on refereeing 100 AEW main events. Boy, that's a lot of bad officiating. As senior official, Paul manages our refs who do great work, but missed some illegalities in the first few bouts last night. I know we can count on Paul. I'm asking him to tighten it up starting tomorrow on Rampage. This is why I said earlier, I made the comment earlier in the stream, that a lot of these bad finishes are part of some kind of story that they're telling here with the referees, which plays itself out on Rampage. And I'll get more into that when I get to the Rampage spoilers a little bit later. We had Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Athena, and Serena Deeb in a four-way match for the AEW Interim Women's Championship. You know, I just said that Pac is great and Pac is awesome. You know who else is awesome? Serena Deeb. Serena Deeb in the first 3 or 4 minutes of this match, like right when the match started, just some of the stuff that she was doing in there was fucking great. So Serena Deeb is awesome here in the opening minute. She's so good. Baker got her nose busted open and possibly broken on a spot where Athena had her in a fireman's carry position, and then picked up Serena, who then executed a dual fallaway slam Samoan drop combo. And when she dropped, Athena, with all of her weight, just fell right down on Britt Baker's face. And Baker immediately grabbed her face and rolled over into the corner. You could see where she was bleeding. The blood was coming out of her nose. Toni Storm caught Athena with a tornado DDT. Baker rolled Storm into a crucifix pin for 2, and then Toni reversed into one of her own for the win. This finish felt like it just came out of nowhere. It was a very sudden finish that people were not expecting. But look, it could have been worse. It could have been Britt Baker winning the Interim Women's Championship, which I did not want to see. So at least they had the right outcome here, which was Toni Storm retaining. Toni Storm should retain until Thunder Rosa is ready to come back, and then you do Thunder Rosa, and you do Toni Storm. Putting the belt on Britt Baker here accomplishes nothing. So I'm at least happy that the right person went over in this match. Now, when it was over, Baker attacked Storm. That brought out Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter comes into the ring to try to stop the assault that was going on, and like last week, she teased that she was going to go after Britt Baker. But this time, she went after Toni Storm instead. And she joined with Britt Baker. She even mouthed the words to the camera, "She's my best friend." Like, what did you think? She's my best friend. And they ganged up on Toni Storm and started to kick the shit out of her. So this was all a swerve. Either it was a swerve from the very beginning, or they made up, and they're all buddy-buddy again. They're all best friends again. So Toni Storm, or rather Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker back on the same page. So I guess Jamie Hayter continues to exist in the shadow of Britt Baker for at least another 6 months. Great. Congrats. Not what I wanted to see. Very disappointed to see that. I thought that was a very bad move. It's exactly what I did not want to see them do, is exactly what happened last night. Storm and Athena, they were being beaten up by Baker and Hayter when they played someone's music, and we didn't know who. I didn't recognize the music, so I figured, okay, this is somebody new. I just had no idea who it was. So the heels stood around wondering the same thing, and the screen flashed the name Saraya. And the crowd lost their minds inside Arthur Ashe Stadium. When I tell you that this woman got either the best or tied for the best reaction of anybody the entire night, I am not exaggerating. And it came across on television. It was even louder in the building. People went nuts because they did not expect it. It's like when William Regal walked out at Revolution, when the match was over with Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson, and they kept fighting, and they're calling out referees to try to break them up, and they can't break them up, and all of a sudden, here comes William Regal. Nobody in the world was expecting William Regal to come walking down to the ring. And they love William Regal. So he got this huge reaction, because it's hard these days to catch people by surprise, right? We're always reading about things before they happen online, or we're hearing rumors so-and-so might possibly be coming back. When they catch you off guard like that with a legitimate surprise, you get a genuine reaction. So I think that was a very big part of the huge ovation that she got on the show last night. But it was Saraya Knight, the former Paige from WWE. She got a very impressive reaction. The other thing that was impressive about this, honestly, is the fact that, as I said earlier, she has not wrestled a match since 2017. And I don't even remember the last time that she was on a WWE show like Raw or SmackDown. She was managing the Kabuki Warriors for a while. And it was basically, I mean, it was nothing. I mean, it didn't go anywhere. She had to have another neck surgery. So once she got taken off TV, we never saw her again. The only time we ever saw her was on that, FS1 show, on the WWE backstage show, where she was with CM Punk and Booker T and Christian. They had that whole crew. So 2017 was the last time she wrestled. It's been almost as long since we've seen her on television. And it's not as if she's on the level of a Rock or a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like a mega name like that, who they could disappear and come back after 5 or 10 years, and at the first stroke of a key in their theme song, the place will explode, right? And yet she came out and everybody knew who she was, and they treated her like she was the biggest women's star in all of wrestling. That was even more impressive to me because of the long layoff that she's had. She hasn't done anything. And yet she still comes out and gets that kind of reaction. So she goes into the ring. The heels left the ring to give her the ring, and she's in there and she's, mouthing at them, "This is my house. This is my house." The song that she came out to was actually a song by her boyfriend, Ronnie Radke, called Zombified, by his band Falling in Reverse. It's a great fucking song. It was my first time hearing it. I don't know how many of you may have or may be familiar with Falling in Reverse. I don't know how big they are as a band, but it's a great fucking song. When I thought that there was a chance that Sasha Banks might come to AEW, and I no longer think that, by the way. I'm not sure Sasha Banks is coming back, period. Sasha Banks is fucking killing it. Her and Naomi both they're out there doing fucking New York Fashion Week. They're going down the runway. Sasha got a whole Vogue spread all to herself. I mean, this woman is doing things much bigger than pro wrestling right now. I still think she will end up back in WWE, but when I thought that there was a chance that she might come to AEW, I said at the time that if Tony Khan would sign her, she could be a game changer in that women's division. Without a doubt. Without question. She could be a game changer in that division. She is a big enough star that it just might force Tony Khan to change the way that he views the women's division, to change how he books the women and the stories that he writes for them or comes up with for them, and how much time he devotes to the division. That's the other big knock on the women's division. Look at all the segments, look at how much time you're devoting to the men, and look at how much time you're devoting to the women, and ultimately that's Tony Khan's call. By bringing in a major name like a Sasha Banks, just by having her under contract, it could change the way that he thinks and says, well, you know what? This is a woman we need to feature on our show. I guess, we have to figure out a way to get the women on the show more often. When I use the word game changer, and I don't use that word very often, that's what I mean. No one woman is going to be brought into this company and is just all of a sudden it's going to change the face of All Elite Wrestling. It comes down to Tony Khan and how much time he devotes to the division. But that's how I felt about her. Saraya could also prove to be that game changer that Sasha could have been. Sasha may not be coming in, but Saraya is here now. She is All Elite. She is under contract now to AEW. She was the face of the women's revolution in WWE, one of the faces of the women's revolution in WWE, going back to the match she and Emma had on that first TakeOver Arrival special, which I want to say was back in 2014. It was many years ago. But that match got a lot of people talking, and that match really kicked off what became the so-called women's revolution in that company. And Paige really was, one of the main faces of it. But again, it all boils down to Tony Khan. At the end of the day, it all boils down to the owner of the company. Will Paige be wrestling? Will Saraya be wrestling? That is the key question that we don't have an answer to as of yet. If not, what kind of role, does Tony Khan have in mind for her? She's not going to have the same impact if Tony Khan brought her in to be a figurehead for the women's division, or he brought her in to be a manager of some kind. She's not going to have the same impact that she would if she were to wrestle and get back in the ring. We're talking about two very different things. So how much of an impact she has on this company is really going to depend on whether or not she's cleared to wrestle and gets back in the ring. That would be the best possible solution or the best possible outcome for Tony Khan, to be able to have this woman who has not wrestled in so many years and be able to advertise and say, guess who's back? You know, we're going to have her, she's going to have her first match in X number of years, and it's going to be in an AEW ring. That would be a huge attraction for him to be able to promote. And if she gets back in the ring, you know, with somebody like a Britt Baker, that's where she's going to have the most impact. And look at the segment last night. Look at the cutaways back and forth to Britt Baker and the reaction shots that they were zooming in specifically on Britt Baker, not really Athena or Toni Storm. It was Britt Baker, you know, with the bloody face and everything. They were getting those reaction shots from her for a reason, because I think the idea is that we're going to build to a match between Saraya and Britt Baker. At least one match between the two of them, I think, is very likely. You know, WWE allowed her contract, Paige's contract, to expire back in July. She did not want to leave the company. She made that very clear. When she put her statement out, she went on Twitch and she was answering questions from her fans. And she made it very clear she was shocked. She was caught off guard. She wanted to stay. She says that, you know, the door was left open, but this was not my decision, guys. The decision was made for me. So she did not want to go. And why should she? Why should she? She was sitting at home getting paid to do nothing. I wouldn't want to lose that job. It sounds like a pretty sweet gig. It's like all those guys who sat on their guaranteed contracts when WCW went out of business. Some took the buyout so they can go to WWE. Two guys did that, Booker T and DDP. And DDP lost a lot of money by doing that. But you had Hogan, you had Nash, you had Hall, you had Goldberg. All these people were getting paid to sit at home on their couch and do nothing for a year and a half, 2 years. We're talking six figures. I don't know exactly how much money, you know, Paige was being paid, but she was being paid to sit at home basically and do nothing. The company had nothing for her. And it's not that she didn't want to work. She made it very clear she was making pitches all the time to the company. She even floated the idea of being a mouthpiece for Ronda Rousey, which I think actually would not have been a bad idea, because Ronda Rousey is somebody who could have used a mouthpiece. I don't know if Paige was that person. I don't know if she would have been the right person for that role, but, you know, she was at least trying to come up with, you know, different things for her to do. But this is a woman who has a history of neck issues. She also has scoliosis, by the way. But she has a history of neck issues. She was told that she has the spinal cord of a person who was in a severe car crash. This was only, you know, a few years ago that she was told this, when she got out of the rings. This would have been about 5 years ago. She had the spinal cord in her mid-20s of somebody who was in a severe auto accident. That's pretty serious shit. One wrong move, one wrong bump, and she could potentially be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. She has not wrestled a match since. And again, there were other things she was offered and suggestions and pitches that were made that ended up not going anywhere. And I said this back in July when her contract expired and she left the company. I said this in July. If her doctors say that she can do it safely, then she should be afforded the same opportunity that anybody else would be, that Edge was given to come back, and he had some pretty major neck issues himself. The opportunity that Bryan Danielson got to come back, again, very different injury situation, but he retired. He was forced into retirement by WWE. Eventually, he was able to come back in the ring. If you're Paige and you're born into this, it's in your blood. You're born into a wrestling family. They've done documentaries on her family. Her parents are wrestlers. Her siblings, like, it's a wrestling family from the moment that this woman was born. That, coupled with you seeing people like Edge and Bryan Danielson being able to come back after they had their careers taken away from them, so they could come back and do what they love and have a chance to end their careers on their terms the way that they want. You have to know that this woman is just dying to get back in the ring to be able to end things on her terms. And if you listen to the things that she said over the years in interviews that she's done and Twitch streams, it's very clear that she wants to get back in the ring. I mean, there's no doubt that she wants to get back in the ring. And if the AEW doctors check her out and say that it's okay, then I think that she should have that chance. You know, saying that your neck feels good and saying that you feel healthy is very different than reality. And she said, oh, my neck feels great and I'm super healthy. Well, that's great that she feels that way, but that doesn't mean that her neck is in such a state that she should be taking bumps on it, right? Those are two very different things. So I feel the same way now that I did, 4 or 5 months ago when I made those comments. If she can get a doctor to test her and check her out and clear her to get back in the ring and wrestle again, then I don't see any reason why she shouldn't have that opportunity. And she has got no shortage of new, fresh opponents that she has never had the chance to work with. Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Toni Storm, Serena Deeb, Athena, Jade Cargill, Chris Statlander when she comes back, right? The list goes on and on. I mean, they have no shortage of women under contract in this company. So she could have this whole, Ruby Soho's another one. She has all of these people that she could potentially get in the ring and work with. And you saw from the reaction she got last night. She was an instant star. On night one, she walked out there and instantly became one of the biggest stars in the entire company. That is not something that Tony Khan should be squandering. Like a lot of other ex-WWE stars that he has brought in, we've seen them on night one get this big reaction, and the whole internet, everybody's talking about them on day one. And maybe they're still talking about them on week 2, but then you get to week 3, you get to week 4, and week 6, and now you're 2 months in, and you're not even seeing them on TV. He cannot allow the same thing to happen to Saraya. He signed her for a reason. If she's not cleared yet, then she can't wrestle. You'll have to find something else for her to do. But she has to be on the show. She can't have an impact. She can't make a change in the women's division if she's not on the fucking show. She has to be featured. There has to be a place for her. There has to be a plan for her. And so I'm hoping it's just not a situation where, well, she's available and she has a name from her days in WWE, and I really like her. I'm a fan of her work, so I'll give her a contract. It's not enough. You need to have a plan of action. You need to know what you're going to do with this woman and take advantage of that reaction that you heard last night. She ain't going to be getting that reaction a month from now if you're not doing anything with her. So what are you going to do with her is the question that everybody should be asking. We don't know whether she'll be wrestling or not. So I can't sit here and say that she's going to be a game changer because I don't know if she'll be back in the ring or not. But she can be a game changer for that women's division. I'm not going to place bets and put money down on whether or not that will actually end up happening. Jon Moxley against Bryan Danielson for the vacant AEW World Championship. This was the finals of the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions. This show would have looked very different had CM Punk not broken his foot back in June. The plan was to do CM Punk and MJF in the main event at All Out in Chicago. And if that was the plan and they did the match, I'm almost positive we would have had MJF leaving Chicago with the AEW World title. So this show and this main event would look very different than it was last night had things played out the way that it was supposed to. But here we are, vacant championship, vacant, our old buddy Vacant. I know you're all very familiar with Vacant. He will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Everyone's favorite wrestler is good old Vacant. So here, MJF was sitting up in the balcony with his poker chip. They kept cutting back to him during the entire match. I assume it was like this on TV because I didn't get to see all the main event on TV. But in the building, we had the giant screen, the giant Tron, all 4 sides, up right in the middle. And they just kept cutting back to MJF. And he was always making a funny face. And everybody was laughing. So it was to the point where we're trying to watch this serious world championship match. And it's very distracting because they're constantly, it was like Kevin Dunn had taken over the controls in the truck with all the cutaways that they did to MJF throughout the entire match. And he was very entertaining, but I thought that it was taking away from the match a little bit. It also took the drama away from the idea that maybe when the match ends, MJF's music will hit and he'll come down to the ring and he'll want to cash in that poker chip. Because Tony Khan just said it the other day, this chip can be cashed in whenever, the holder wants to use it. So unless he has specified that, the holder of the chip must first announce the date or the event in which they would like to cash it in, theoretically, he could have cashed in last night, but we saw him sitting up in the balcony, so we had eyes on him the entire time. It took the drama away from whether or not he would come out. I actually think that was probably for the better, because had MJF not been sitting up in that balcony, I guarantee you a good portion of the crowd, especially down the stretch, would have had their eyes on the tunnels. They would have been waiting for him to come out. Instead of watching what's going on here, they would have just been looking at the aisle. They would have been very disappointed when nobody came out. So it might have been actually a smart move to have him placed in the balcony like that. Moxley won the first match that these two had back at Revolution, but barely. Danielson took a good chunk of that first match. It really was a fluke win for Moxley, the way that he pinned Danielson in that match. This was more of an even battle. Both men at one point, they locked legs and they bridged up on their heads, and they were having a slap fight upside down, which I have not seen that before, so that was kind of unique. Danielson ended up getting the cattle mutilation, transitioned into the anvil elbows. He backdropped out of a Death Rider attempt, hit the running knee strike for 2. Everybody in the building popped huge when Moxley hit that curb stomp. As soon as he hit that curb stomp, everyone was like, "Ooh," and they all reacted big to that. I don't know how many of you picked up on it, but they did a callback to the finish of their first match where Danielson had Moxley locked in the triangle, and Mox went to go bridge over into a pin. That's how he beat Danielson the first time. But when he bridged over, Danielson rolled through. He kept the momentum going, and he rolled through right into the label lock. So that was some nice attention to detail there from their Revolution match. They were clearly running slow, or running short, rather, on time at this point. I kept looking at my watch. It was like 9:57, 9:58, and I said, boy, if whoever's going to win, there's going to be some kind of championship celebration here. Unless they gave them a big overrun, which they've never had a big overrun. I think the biggest overrun they've ever had was like 2 minutes. I think the show went off the air 1 minute late last night, I believe. Ooh, they had a 1 minute overrun. Ooh. So they don't get overruns here on TBS. So it was very clear they were going to have to rush into this finish. They ended up on the ramp, which again, the ramp was elevated and it was at a slant. It was not flat. So Moxley gave him a Death Rider on top of the ramp, and Danielson rolled into the ring. And it didn't look as ridiculous as you may think, because again, there was a slant. So it kind of made sense that he would roll a few feet into the ring. Moxley desperately crawled back into the ring to try to go and get the pinfall. Danielson kicked out. Moxley sank in the rear naked choke, which Danielson used the ropes to try to break out of. Moxley did not let go. He just floated over and sunk it in even more. Finally, wasn't responding, and the referee called for the bell. He called for the stoppage. And Jon Moxley becomes the first man to hold the AEW World Championship on 3 separate occasions. First man to ever do that. I thought this was an excellent match. The biggest surprise was that there was no blood from either man. There was no blood, at least from the head. There was no blood from Moxley. There was no blood from Danielson. I was shocked. Big main event match like this, World Championship on the line. You mean to tell me the 2 men who love to bleed in this company the most weren't going to bleed? I was shocked. There was no pyro. There was no confetti. We crowned a brand new world champion. Even the Acclaimed got confetti. Britt Baker, when she came out for her entrance, she got pyro. No pyro, no confetti, no nothing. Here for Moxley when it was over. Only Bryan Danielson pulling the belt away from William Regal when Regal went to go strap the belt around Moxley's waist. He grabbed the belt, he yanked it away from him, and he pointed his finger in Regal's face. So he was teasing trouble as they went off the air. I could see on the screen when they went off the air. So now we begin the dark portion of what you missed when the show last night went off the air. You didn't miss anything, because Danielson ended up strapping the belt around Moxley's waist himself. There was no fight. There was no tease of a fight. He went over to Moxley like a good sport, and he strapped the belt around his waist, and he shook the man's hand. And the Blackpool Combat Club celebrated their win. Moxley cut a promo on stage talking about blood, sweat, tears, and passion, and how the title doesn't define him, but he defines the title. I was pulling for Bryan Danielson win here. I was disappointed that we didn't get it, but I should have expected a Moxley win. It seemed pretty obvious, looking back on it now. Just from the exchange that he and MJF had on that first Dynamite coming out of All Out, when they were in the ring together. And MJF, called back to their first feud, and he said, I'm not the same guy when, we met the first time and I was in the ring with a podium and I was campaigning. Remember they did those segments at Daly's Place. So him calling back to their first program together should have been a tell right there. And then, of course, the fucking promo that Moxley cut when MJF left, that just unbelievable promo where Moxley basically just took the whole company and put it right back on his shoulders. That was the night that he solidified himself as the ace of AEW. It should have been obvious then that the direction to go in was going to be Jon Moxley and MJF. And if it's not going to be CM Punk that MJF wins his first world championship from, it should be Jon Moxley. Bryan Danielson has lost a lot of matches in AEW, more than I would have him lose. Jon Moxley rarely loses. In fact, you go back before All Out when he lost to CM Punk, I don't remember the last time that Jon Moxley got pinned straight up in a singles match on TV or a pay-per-view. He is one of the most protected stars on the entire roster. So if MJF is going to beat somebody to win that world championship, it should be the ace of the company. It should be the guy who is most protected, who, when he does eat a pinfall loss, is going to make the fans sit up and go, whoa, this feels like a big deal. This feels like a major thing that just happened here, because this guy doesn't lose. Danielson loses a lot more than Moxley does. So of the two, it does make sense for it to be Moxley that MJF ultimately beats, because, like I said, Moxley is the ace of this company. So the night was not over. I put some video up on my Twitter of Tony Khan, who came out when the Dynamite taping was over. And he, like I said, was very animated and was talking about how coming up next we have Rampage and we've got Sting is coming out, Sting! He was like, I can't do what he does. He sounds ridiculous, but very excited was Tony Khan. Talking about Sting is coming up next on Rampage, and he talked about the first $1 million gate for a Dynamite that they've ever had in the company, and he got down on his knees and he thanked the fans, and then he stood up and he pumped his fist in the air, and then he walked to the back. So that got us all prepped for AEW Rampage. Now, Rampage has not aired yet, so if anybody listening or watching right now, if you do not want to know what happened on Rampage tomorrow, you want to go into it fresh, either you can tune out or you can mute, because we're going to hang out after and go through super chats and stuff. So you could always mute for a few minutes. I don't want to lose you, but sorry, I'm going into spoilers here. So you have been warned. Don't tell me that I didn't warn you. But we are going to go through these Rampage spoilers here so I can give you the live perspective. And because I'm not reviewing it tomorrow night. So you're getting it now. Rampage opened with Sting and Darby Allin taking on Brody King and Buddy Matthews of the House of Black, which no longer has black in it. But Julia Hart was in their corner. This was no disqualification. And there was a very scary spot during this match where Sting was climbing up on the rope. He was on the apron. And he was kind of pushing him, he was pushing himself up on the turnbuckles because there were two tables outside. And he was going to splash Buddy Matthews through either one of them or both of them. I think the idea would have been both of them. So as Sting, again, I'm giving you a visual aid here. As Sting is kind of, propping himself up on the turnbuckles, Brody King comes up from behind and he shoves Sting off the ropes. And Sting goes crashing through one of the tables. He didn't hit the other one, he did, but he didn't go through the other one. He went through one table, but he hit his head on the edge of the second table. And everybody reacted. They saw what happened. Everybody reacted to it pretty much the same way, and it looked nasty. And he came up bleeding. He had a small gash on his forehead. So, it wasn't anything too gnarly, but yes, obviously he did bust himself open on that spot. Hopefully he didn't concuss himself. So they ended up handcuffing Sting's hands behind his back in the ring, and Sting stayed in the ring. He was down on the ground. So now he's got a legitimate head wound that he can't touch. He can't hold his head or anything because his hands are now handcuffed behind him. They leave him to take Darby over to the stage. So you got Matthews and Brody King and Darby. Now they venture on over to the stage. Darby hit a coffin drop off one of the entrance tunnels. He fell backwards onto Buddy Matthews. Brody then got Darby in a chokehold. So you remember the Rampage Royal Rumble match or whatever the hell it was that they had many months ago, and the way that Brody King put Darby Allin out of the match. He got him in that choke until his body went limp, and then he just dropped him. So he tried to do the same thing again by the edge of the stage. And Darby looked like he was going out, but then he got a second win. He got life to him. And he was able to get Brody King over to the side of the stage, and I didn't see it until they went through it, but they had two more tables set up over on that side. So they went tumbling off the side of the stage, and they crashed through the tables. So that took care of Darby Allin and Brody King. They were done for the rest of the match. Buddy Matthews goes back to the ring, and he's got Sting's baseball bat. And he is threatening to hit Sting with the baseball bat. Sting is still handcuffed, okay? He has placed Sting in a chair. I should mention that as well. So Sting is sitting in a chair in the ring with both arms tied behind his back. All of a sudden, the arena goes dark. The lights go out. I'm thinking maybe Miro is going to come out, right? Where's Miro? Miro's another one of these ex-WWE guys who we rarely get to see. The lights go out, and when the lights come back on, they play the music, they put his name up on the screen, just like with Saraya earlier, before he even came out. We saw the name on the screen, and the place went fucking nuts for the Great Muta. So the Great Muta comes out, and he's got the mask on over the... Now, he's moving very slowly, because, the guy's 1,000 fucking years old. And, of course, his knees are beaten to shit. But there he is, and he comes out from the babyface entrance tunnel. And there's the Great Muta. I don't know how it's going to come across on TV, but I will tell you the pop in the building was deafening for this guy when he came out. It was insane. And he and Sting have a history. This is what I loved about this. It's not just like a random cameo here. He and Sting have history together. They used to be mortal enemies. Back in WCW, back in 1989, right? They had a match at Starrcade. They were part of a tag team match against each other at Halloween Havoc. That was the electrified cage match. You could watch all that stuff on Peacock. So there's a history there from WCW between Sting and Muta. Muta comes down to the ring, and he looks at Sting as if he's going to attack Sting and assist Murphy. But then he turns and he faces off with Murphy. And he catches Murphy, who went to go kick him. He grabs his foot, and he gives him a dragon screw leg whip. And then he spits the green mist in Matthews' face and blinds him. All of a sudden, he bumps into Julia Hart because he can't see. So Matthews bumps into Julia, knocks her off the apron. The idea was that Julia Hart was supposed to take a bump of her own through another table that was set up outside. And I could be misremembering this, but it looked to me like she overshot the table and she hit the floor pretty hard. So again, it was, somebody's going to kill themselves one of these days on these spots. But anyway, Julia Hart gets knocked off, so she's taken out. Sting breaks free somehow from the handcuffs, and he grabs Buddy Matthews from behind. He hits the Scorpion Death Drop, and he pins him to win the match for his team. So Sting and Darby Allin pick up the win. And when the match was over, Muta and Sting, they hugged and they posed together in the ring. And look, Muta is wrestling his retirement match in February at the Tokyo Dome. He's about to wrestle his final match. And I know how these retirements go in wrestling, but I trust that this is going to be it for him. So they're really building this up as a big deal. You know, they're going to run the Tokyo Dome. Pro Wrestling Noah is going to run the Tokyo Dome in February. And so, his career is about to come to an end. This is probably the last time that I will ever get to see the Great Muta live. And this will undoubtedly be the last time I will ever get to see Sting and Muta together in a ring like this. So for me, this was a very cool moment. And I hope it plays out that way on TV tomorrow night. Not such a good night, I guess, for the House of Black, if you are a House of Black fan. But let's be honest here. Once they lost Malachi, it's not as if the House of Black was being pushed well even when Malachi was with them. Once Malachi Black decided to step away, whatever his situation is, and now these two are just the tag team, you knew they were doomed. So them losing here was not really a surprise, and I could excuse it because I thought the finish was very cool. We had Hook and Action Bronson taking on Angelo Parker and Matt Menard of the Jericho Appreciation Society. That's right. Little Nose in the chat says that Ricky Steamboat is coming back as well. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, I believe, is it next month or in November? But he is coming out of retirement for what I think is going to be a tag team match. So he said no to being part of Ric Flair's final match because I thought he had enough sense to realize that it's been a long time since he's been in the ring. He had a pretty good run there, honestly. Those couple of matches that he had in WWE in 2009, he looked pretty good. And so why not leave well enough alone, right? He was kind of old then. And here's a guy who's smart and he realizes I don't want people to remember me, how I'm going to be now. I want them to remember me the way I was the last time they saw me. And now he's coming out of retirement anyway. So it always, this right here, it always comes down to this, right? They call it the wrestling business for a reason. It all comes down to this. So Action Bronson is from Queens. He came out, he got a huge reaction from the crowd. Great reaction because he's a local boy, right? And the people like him anyway. He wrapped himself and Hook down to the ring. He sang them to the ring. And they kept his spots very limited. He tagged in. Mostly he did shoulder tackles. Menard and Parker would run into him. At one point he did, one of these like Braun Strowman-esque running power slams in the ring. Got a big pop. That was it. Then he would immediately tag out to Hook. He did not overstay his welcome. He didn't try to do a fucking Code Red. He didn't try to do a fucking Hurricane Rana. He didn't do a dive because he's smart enough not to kill himself. What he did was simple. It was short. It was inoffensive. And the match ended with Hook and Action Bronson applying stereo red rums to Parker and Menard for the submission. Crowd loved it. It was exactly what it needed to be. I had no issue with what they did here in this match. And honestly, I made a comment to my friend sitting next to me. When the match was over and they, there's Action Bronson. I'm looking at him up on the big screen and he's celebrating. Pay attention when you see this on TV tomorrow night. They zoom in on his face. If you take Bray Wyatt's hat and you put it on his head, I swear to God, he looks exactly like Bray Wyatt. You put Action Bronson in a Hawaiian shirt and put a hat on his head, and you will have Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt family leader, when he first debuted in WWE. I would not be able to tell them apart. Aside from the fact, I guess, that Action Bronson is like Bam Bam. He's got the tattoos on his head. We had Jade Cargill defending her TBS championship against Diamante. Now, I know there was a segment that aired on Dynamite last night in the back. It was an interview segment, and Diamante was there with, now, am I getting this right? Her name is Trina, right? That's her name? She's a rapper. I see that she has 2.3 million followers on Twitter, so she must have some kind of very strong following. Trina was in the back with Diamante, and they were building this up as if, all right, there might be something on Rampage that goes down with Jade and Trina. I don't know who Trina is, so I just don't give a shit. But that's kind of what that segment built this up as, possibly, there could be something between them on Friday night. Well, I'm here to tell you that there was nothing between them on Friday night. We had the match. Jade at one point was thrown out of the ring, and it looked like she may have injured her knee. She was limping the rest of the... She finished the match. She hit the Jaded. But for the rest of the way, right up until she went to the back through the entrance tunnel, she was nursing, something. Maybe she just jammed it, jarred it. Maybe it's nothing serious, but it looked like she tweaked her knee. But when this was over, Trina got into the ring, and she slapped Diamante. And she ended up aligning herself with Jade Cargill and the Baddies. So I guess that was another swerve, just like Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. I guess Trina was with Jade Cargill all along. Oh, the Sky Genie. Look at that. Dancing Solomonster Super Chat. Look at that. Tell me that guy doesn't have any soul. He doesn't have any rhythm, that guy. Trina is from the early to mid 2000s. She is the queen of Miami. Well, that might be why I don't know her. I'm from Brooklyn. I ain't from Miami. So I don't know Trina. I must have missed Trina. I've never heard of this woman in my life. So, we had Wardlow, the TNT champion, teaming with the Ring of Honor television champion Samoa Joe, or as they were calling them, Ward Joe, defeating Josh Woods and Tony Nese after Joe pinned Nese with a muscle buster. After the match, they caught Smart Mark Sterling trying to get involved. Wardlow was about to give the Powerbomb Symphony to Josh Woods. Mark Sterling comes in. They put Josh Woods on the side. They grab him. Joe takes Smart Mark and throws him right into Wardlow's legs, which I don't know if I would let Joe do that. Throw someone headfirst into my crotch, but he ended up getting the Powerbomb Symphony. Wardlow also looked like he may have hurt his knee. At one point, I think it might have been him and Woods, they went, or him and Nese, went tumbling out of the ring to the floor. And when he came up, he was definitely favoring the knee. Even off camera, on the outside, before he got back in the ring to do the powerbomb stuff at the end, he was definitely holding that knee and nursing some kind of knee, maybe not an injury, but knee pain of some kind. So hopefully he's okay. It was definitely bothering him. We had Jungle Boy one-on-one with Rey Fenix. This was a long match. This was very late in the night. And these two went very long. This might be one of those matches they're going to have to edit down for TV tomorrow night. But they had a very good match. Look, these two were in a tough spot with the crowd because there were parts of the match where the crowd clearly was tiring. But then they would do some crazy spot and they would get the crowd back into it. And, it got this is awesome chant. And the work here was really good. Really good stuff from these two. Although I think in the end, Jungle Boy won with a roll-up. So it was one of those finishes. But very good match. Very good stuff here between Phoenix and Jungle Boy. With Jungle Boy going over. Christian Cage came out with his arm in a brace because he had surgery. I think he might have had the same injury that CM Punk had. Torn tricep, I think, might be the injury. So he's going to be out for a very long time. That's a legitimate injury. But he came out. He had his arm in a brace. Came out on stage. He cut a promo on Jungle Boy. Luchasaurus, as Christian was talking, we could see him come out from under the ring behind Jungle Boy, snuck into the ring. Jungle Boy turned around and tried to attack him, but Luchasaurus fought him off and ended up laying him out with a chokeslam. So they're going to keep Christian around. They're going to keep him on TV, even though he can't work. So in the meantime, they could at least build to a match between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, but it's going to be a long time before we see Christian back in the... at least 6 months. So it's not like this Christian thing, they could just put him in TV segments for a couple of months and then he'll be back. If the reports are to be believed, he's going to be out for a long time. Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara. This was the match that we were supposed to get it all out. Didn't happen. But we got it on Rampage this week. Sammy Guevara, when he comes out, I don't know how much of it you'll be able to see when he makes his entrance. he has a new anime video entrance. So it's this anime, it's this whole video where all of the AEW stars are in anime form. So you've got Hangman Page, and you've got, I think Wardlow was in there, and all these people in anime form. It's kind of weird, but that's something to watch out for. Before the match, Sammy gets on the microphone, and he's acting like he's going to apologize to Eddie Kingston. Then he gets in the ring and he says, "I'm sorry for not calling you a fat piece of shit sooner." And Eddie goes after him and starts beating the shit out of him, and they brawl out of the ring. So that's what got us into this mess in the first place. That's what got that match canceled in the first place. But now, they made up, and now they're able to work together as professionals, and all is well between them. And so he comes out and calls Eddie Kingston a fat piece of shit. Kingston finally nailed Guevara at the end of this match with a series of spinning back fists, the Hurricanes. 3 of them. He caught him with 3 of them. By the way, one thing I didn't mention, you'll see this as a recurring theme, not just last night, but tomorrow night, chopping. We got chop fests in almost every match, it felt like. So, especially in this match here. A lot of chopping going on in this match. But Eddie got the win, 3 spinning back fists, and then he locked Sammy. I don't believe it was a stretch plum. It kind of looks similar. Maybe it was. I don't know. But it didn't look like a stretch plum to me. Whatever the submission was, though, he put Sammy out with it. But he would not release the hold. He would not let go of the hold. I guess that's what happens when somebody calls you a fat piece of shit. It really lights a fire under your ass. So he would not release the submission hold. Referee is waving security and waving officials from the back to come out. They can't get Eddie off this guy. And so finally, Paul Turner goes over and he tells Justin Roberts to announce that he was overruling the original finish and awarding the match to Sammy Guevara. So that ties in with the Tony Khan tweet from earlier today when he told Paul Turner, hey, congrats on the first referee to get to 100 matches in AEW, but you need to tighten your shit up. The officiating lately, a lot of referees have been missing stuff. You got to tighten things up. This is going to tie in with that story. When he comes out to overturn, this was like Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler at SummerSlam in '93, when Bret won the match with the sharpshooter, but he refused to let the hold go. And eventually the referee reversed the decision and he awarded the win to Jerry Lawler as he was wheeled out to the back. Same thing here. So Sammy Guevara technically is the winner of this match. So now it's like midnight. And I am ready to get the fuck out of here, right? But I know that I have to talk about Rampage here. And so I tell my boys, I go, we're going to stick around. We're going to hang out until the very end of this show. We have a battle royal to determine who is going to get a future shot at the AEW World Championship. This was the golden ticket battle royal. Who is going to punch their golden ticket to a future title match? Even though MJF is walking around with a poker chip that entitles him to an AEW World title match, now we're going to have a golden ticket battle royal. So I'm dying to get out of this fucking building at this point. And they have everybody from the battle royal running out to the ring. So you know the format of these AEW battle royals, right? They usually do it by suit when it's like a casino battle royal. I don't know if that was the way this was going to work or not. Maybe not. But we didn't have any of that here. Everybody just, like 5 guys ran out and start brawling around the ringside area. And then another 5 ran out. And then another 5 and another 5. 25 men in this battle royal. And for whatever reason, they're all fighting on the outside of the ring. Nobody is getting inside. They're all fighting on the outside. I'm looking at my watch. I'm going, what the fuck is this? Ring the bell. Get in the ring. Let's get the show on the road here. We got to get back to our car. And they're just fucking around on the outside of the ring. And I'm starting to get angry. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So finally, they ring the bell. And now they get into the ring. And now the match begins. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. You look at who's in this battle royal, and you'll see it. You'll see when the match airs tomorrow night. And we've seen battle royals like this in WWE, where they will fill it up with the vast majority being like low card, like practically job guys, right? And they make up the majority of this battle royal. It was very similar here, where you had a lot of lower card talent who had no chance of winning this battle royal. So in a lot of ways, it just felt like a waste of time. But I will tell you that Hangman Adam Page did win the battle royal. He is going to get a future world championship match. It was Paige beating out Jay Lethal, Roosh, The Butcher, The Blade, The Dark Order, Private Party, Danhausen, Dante Martin, Penta L0M, who is not a jobber, Brian Cage. Holy fuck, when was the last time we saw Brian Cage in an AEW match? I don't even remember. It's probably been about a year, right? It's, I think, literally been about a year since we have seen Brian Cage, not in Ring of Honor, but in an AEW match. There he is. They sent him out there. Brian Cage is out there. He got dumped out. Ari Daivari, Lance Archer, Daniel Garcia, Cole Carter, Best Friends, Jake Hager, Dalton Castle, who had the boys with him. Dalton Castle was over big here in New York. Lee Moriarty, and Matt Hardy. The Battle Royal came down. There were really no memorable spots from the Battle Royal. It came down to Hangman and Roosh. They were the final two. And Hangman ends up winning the entire thing. He will get his match with Jon Moxley. When, you ask? It will be on the Tuesday Night Dynamite episode on October 18th. And it just so happens that that Tuesday Night Dynamite episode, where I guess they'll be going head-to-head with NXT that night, that Tuesday Night Dynamite episode is going to be live from Cincinnati, Ohio, which happens to be the hometown of one Jon Moxley. So we know who's going to have the hometown advantage that night. So there you go. Hangman Page, going to get another shot at the championship. What did CM Punk call him? The empty-headed dumb fuck? Is that what he called him? When CM Punk was having cramps a few weeks ago. So I'm thinking, okay, Hangman Page has won the Battle Royal. Actually, you know what? Let me go back for a second to the Battle Royal. There was one spot that's actually worth mentioning. Dalton Castle had the boys with him. So there was a spot where Dalton got thrown out of the ring and the boys caught him. And they kind of carried him around a little bit and then they put him back into the ring. So that was cool. Always fun to see the boys. But now the Battle Royal is over and I'm thinking, okay, finally, we have reached the end of this shit. It's 20 after 12, right? We've gone well past midnight here. Battle Royal is over. I'm not joking. Everybody in our section and a lot of the other sections, as soon as the Battle Royal was over, everybody got up. Everybody started to head to the exits, including myself. And as I'm walking up the stairs to leave the stadium, I hear Mark Henry's voice, like the voice of God. I hear Mark Henry over the PA system, and he is interviewing Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. And all of us at the same time remember, oh shit, there's another match. We're not done. We have the main event. They gave the main event, which I think is actually kind of cool that they gave them the main event, but they gave the main event to Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, I don't know why you would have a Battle Royal go on second to last for a shot at your world championship. It would make sense you would end with the Battle Royal. But unless they air it out of sequence, and I don't see how they can, because Mark Henry does interviews before the main event. And then he goes, it's time for the main event. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I just stood up at that point. But I stayed. And out of respect to Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks, because this was a match I wanted to see, I just completely blanked and forgot that we hadn't seen it yet. So I stood up, as many people did, and I watched this match. This was an unsanctioned lights out match. So they did the gimmick where Justin Roberts said, in a moment, we're going to turn the lights out in the building. When we put the lights back on, AEW is not going to be responsible for anything that happens in this next match. So the lights go out, they go back on. Hobbs comes out, Starks comes out. So it's basically like a no DQ anything goes match. And they went longer than the 4 minutes that they gave them at All Out. So that's the good news. Ricky Starks, the bad news, is that Ricky Starks took a very, very stupid bump during this match. I don't know why he took this bump. I don't know what would possess somebody to want to take this bump. It's like weeks and weeks ago on Raw, Kevin Owens. It was in one of the matches with Ezekiel, so it was a few months ago. Kevin Owens took this very stupid bump where I think he got powerbombed or something on the edge of the ring steps. So like normally you'd move the ring steps and maybe you'd slam somebody on the flat part of the steps. No, he took a bump on the fucking edge of the steps. So why would you do that? So they have two chairs set up in the ring, back to back. So the top parts of the chairs are right next to each other. Hobbs took Starks, and I don't remember if it was a body slam or if it was a power bomb. It was something like, maybe something like that, power slam maybe. On top of the chairs, his back, like his whole body bent, like right on the top bars of the chairs. What would possess somebody to take a bump like that? Why would you want to take a bump like that? It doesn't add anything to the match. 2 seconds later, Hobbs gave him a running power slam onto a pile of chairs. That would have been well enough. So he's lucky he didn't break his fucking back on that spot, the way his body bent. Very, very stupid. So they end up brawling up onto the stage. Hobbs was in one of the entrance tunnels, the heel tunnel. And if you go in the tunnel, they have these light tubes. He ripped one of the light tubes off the side panel of the tunnel, and he took it back with him to the ring. Now, back in the ring, there was a table that was set up, propped up against the turnbuckles in one of the corners. That's how I knew this match wasn't going to end, because until that table was broken, there's no way this match was going to end. You don't introduce a table into the ring in a professional wrestling match and not break the table. So I was using the table as a barometer for how much time we had left in this match. The table was still intact, therefore the match is not going to be over. So they're back in the ring. And before Starks could, or before Hobbs rather, could hit Starks with the fixture, the light tube, Starks speared him through a table in the corner. Now I knew we were heading for the finish. Starks then nailed him with the fixture, and then came the most impressive part of this entire thing. He got Powerhouse Hobbs up for the Rochambeau, and he delivered the Rochambeau. He got this big fucker up on his shoulders, like seamlessly. Hobbs is a big fucking guy. He got him up for it. He delivered the move. It was his finish, and he got the pin with it. And Ricky Starks beats Powerhouse Hobbs. They had a hell of a match. A very stupid bump with the chairs, but that aside, I thought this was a fun main event. I couldn't wait to get out of this building. And I don't blame them for that. I wanted to stick around for it, but as soon as the bell rang and Ricky Starks won, apparently he cut a promo when the match was over. I didn't stick around for it. As soon as the match was over, everybody just fucking left. For all I know, Starks gave a promo to like 5 people in the crowd. But the match itself was very enjoyable, and I was happy to see Starks get the win. That was the right call. That was the right decision. Ricky Starks could be a big, big star for them. Tony Khan, he plays his cards right. Ricky Starks could be a very big deal. He could be a future world champion for him in this company. But very impressive seeing him get Powerhouse Hobbs hoisted up without any trouble. He didn't like almost drop him or anything like that. He got that big guy up, and he hit his finish, and he got the win. So I was happy to see them get the main event, but now it was 12:40 in the morning, and Solomonster was very sleepy and could not wait to leave. And I got to meet some listeners of the show on my way out of the stadium. It's weird. Like, as I'm leaving, I got like a second wind. All of a sudden, I got my energy back because I wasn't just sitting there. So, and I knew I had 1.5 miles to walk. So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I set my fucking watch. I said, I better get my cardio in now. Earliest I've ever closed my exercise ring on the iPhone. 1 o'clock in the morning, I already had well over 30 minutes of cardio done. In the time it took us to walk out of that stadium, because we had to retrace our steps and go all the way back to the overfill lot. So we're walking through fucking Flushing, Queens in the dead of night, pitch black. There's nobody else around aside from all the wrestling fans leaving. And I put a picture up on my Twitter. I took a picture of the overflow lot because most of the lot was empty. Everybody had already left. That was the one good thing. Because we were one of the last people out, we didn't have to deal with traffic on the way out. everybody was gone. I took a picture of an empty lot and I said, dude, where's my car? And everybody on my Twitter timeline thought I had my car stolen. First of all, I didn't drive my car to the show, number one. And number two, I thought people would pick up the reference right away. I think they were just trying to be nice. They thought maybe on the off chance my car really was stolen, they wanted to be nice about it. But no, everything was fine. We found the car, we got out of there, and I was probably, in all honesty, I was probably in bed earlier than I am on some nights when I stream here with you guys. I was in bed. It was almost a little before 3 a.m. I finally got to bed, so I was able to sleep from about 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't wake up until like 9:45. So for me, that's a decent amount of sleep. And that is your Dynamite and Rampage recap from my very first event at Arthur Ashe Stadium. I don't know. I think I got my fill. I don't know that I would make this an annual thing. I had fun. It was fun, but I did miss doing my usual stream on a Wednesday night. I hate it when we have to have a disruption here to the streaming schedule. I missed Raw Monday nights because I had something I had to do on Tuesday, so that's why there was no Raw review. But we'll get back on a normal schedule next week. And one thing I forgot to do was actually put up a Twitter poll. So what I did was I got a poll up here in the live chat, which you can vote in right now. We have over 1,100 votes. What did you think of AEW Dynamite Grand Slam? And so far, the results of the poll are very positive. 80% of you have given the show a thumbs up. 15% thumbs in the middle, and only 5% gave the show a thumbs down. It was definitely not a thumbs down show. Very long. Again, you didn't have to worry about that watching it on TV, but being there live, it was very long. It was too long, but it was fun. I had fun. It's been too long since I've been to one of these shows, and hopefully I'll be able to get out to more of them. Of course, we have House of Glory this weekend. I'm going to be back in Queens again. I may as well move to Queens at this point. I seem to be spending most of my time there. We're going to actually have Penta. Penta is going to be wrestling low-key on the House of Glory show this Saturday night, live on Fight TV. And we have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson coming in to challenge the Briscoes for the tag team titles. That's going to be, or is it main event? I think I have my matches mixed up. My brain is fried. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the ladder match that we're going to have. That's what I'm looking forward to. We're going to have Charles Mason and Ken Broadway in our first ever ladder match in House of Glory history. Oh my goodness. No, actually it is. It's the Dark Order against the Briscoes. We have main event taking on Milk Chocolate. It's going to be a fun show. So anyway, let us jump into your super chats. Let us jump into your House of Glory hole. I was waiting for somebody to make that joke. House of Glory hole. That is not an event that I am going to be part of this weekend. I will tell you that. I'm a classy individual. You will not find me doing commentary for no glory holes. Beowulf, I like that. I am the king of queens. I like that. I'm gonna go with that. Solomonster is the king of queens. All right, let's see what you guys have to say here. I do thank you for all of your support. As always, you guys know that. Queen Fire Panda. Very interested to see how Tony Khan books Saraya. Hopefully she does not get lost in the shuffle. It's exactly what I was just talking about before. It all boils down to what Tony Khan does with her, whether she wrestles, whether she's in some sort of a speaking role. She has to be featured on the show. She has to have some kind of prominent role on the show in order for her to make an actual impact. If she's not on the show, then all it is another signing that is going to end up going to waste. And I don't want to see that. Alex Ollie, $5 super chat. Got to meet you after Rampage ended. That was cool. I had a 3-hour drive back to Albany. Oh my God, I thought our drive was bad enough. Alex had to drive back to Albany after that. You were probably driving throughout the night. HOGH. Sons of bitches. HOGH. House of Glory Hole. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's awful. That's awful. HOGH. Sons of bitches. Amiibo Guru. Alex, by the way, thank you. Yes, I got to meet Alex and a couple of other people when the show was over on the way out. Amiibo Guru. Hey, Solomonster, it's me, Amiibo. Yeah, I kind of guessed that there. Was at the show and had a blast. Only negative was that it was too long. Wish I ran into you, but maybe next time. Cowboys suck. Anderson Blitz. My family and I were at Grand Slam, and it was an amazing experience, and Saraya debuting made me scream so loud that now I am sick with a sore throat. Well, it really was. It was Saraya and Great Muta. I think they were right around on the same level as far as the crowd reaction last night. Alex Ali. Arthur Ashe is a great venue for Grand Slam. Really enjoyed Dynamite. I kind of described this Grand Slam as a sequel that was good, but not as good as the first. Justin Jack, I'm very sweaty. Great stream. Good to know. I was sitting around a lot of very sweaty wrestling fans last night. Yeah, Mark in the chat, the audio last night in the building was horrible. I mean, we could barely hear what was being said. Like, it was a really, really bad audio situation. Dick the Cock Johnson, a 2-hour Rampage taping on the East Coast sounds like genuine hell to sit through live, despite the quality of the card. Well, some people, it doesn't bother some people. Me, I think it was too much. And again, if it was 2 hours, it would have been over by midnight. We didn't get out of there until 12:40 in the morning. And yes, I could have left anytime I wanted to, but there were matches I did want to see. And also, I wanted to show respect here for Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs being given the main event spot. People need to support them. People need to react and be loud. Otherwise, they may not get main events in the future. That's what happens. I mean, people, if they leave and people aren't there, then they may not get more main events. So you want to support. Food Hive. Dude, where's my car? Underrated movie, effing classic. I couldn't believe how many people thought I had my car stolen last night. Haisham. Settle this debate. Is it spinning heel kick or spinning wheel kick? They seem to be used interchangeably, and if both, what is the difference? I've never heard spinning wheel kick in my entire life. It's spinning heel kick. M. Mills with the $5 super chat. Thank you very much. It's good to hear from you. Spicy Dried Chicken AEW Grand Slam Dynamite was all right. It's about damn time the Acclaimed finally wins some gold. Ben Quesnell, $4.99 super chat, just showing some love. No message. Thank you, Ben. Brian Pissarro with the $20 super chat drop. I thought last year Grand Slam was better. Honestly, Danielson has had the best performance in both Grand Slam appearances. Danielson always kills it in the ring. The match with Omega last year was great. The matches that he's had with Hangman Page and with Jon Moxley and Daniel Garcia, Eddie Kingston. Danielson has been killing it since day one in the ring. Boots, will you be costuming for Halloween Raw review? You know, I forgot about that. I believe Raw does fall on Halloween this year. And I feel like I should, right? I feel like I should get dressed up in some way for that review. I'll have to just give some thought to what I should be dressing up as. Maybe I will dress up as Orange Cassidy, since everybody apparently thinks we are one and the same anyway. I don't know. Or maybe I should buy myself a Burberry scarf and I could be MJF. Or we could bring back the Hulko Monster. The solo Hulkster. I still have that costume here too. Marquand, 1976. If you had to bet house money, which move would you bet on being successful? Ric Flair off the top rope or Kurt Angle's moonsault? Kurt Angle's moonsault. That's the move he broke Bob Holly's arm with. And Marquand, I meant Flair. Yes, I know what you meant. Thank you. Thank you. Drew Johnson, $50 super chat drop. Says Solomonster, you are the GOAT. Drew, you are the man. Always remember that Drew spelled backwards is word. I don't know what that means. I just felt like saying that. Somebody wants me to dress up as Michael Myers. Well, the only problem with that, I can't wear a mask because the audio is going to be muffled if I'm wearing a mask. So we probably should avoid masks. Bobby's World, 2110 with the $10 super chat. Small thing, but while getting pinned, would it kill guys to close their eyes for the first half of the count instead of staring at the referee? Kind of a dead giveaway that they are going to kick out. I try to rationalize it like kayfabe-wise by just saying if I were in a wrestling match, I would absorb as much of the pin as I can before I kick out because I'm trying to rest and catch my breath. So I want to keep my eyes on the referee, so when I see the referee hits 2, I know when to kick out. It is stupid, but that's kind of how I rationalize it. Griga, thank you for the $2. Sean D, I had to see this particular stream solely for your reaction to Hater teaming back up with Britt Baker. Also, I really would like to see Dax as the Ring of Honor World Champion. You know, I could see Dax Harwood as a singles champion one day. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. They've made it very clear that they want to stick to the tag team thing. Drew Johnson with another $50 super chat. So actually, he dropped 2 $50. I missed one of them. He dropped 2 $50 bombs on me. Drew, are you still here? I hope Drew is still with us. Says, dude, where's your car, Solomonster? Should have gotten Stifler to help you find your car, bro. How old is Stifler these days? Stifler's probably like 50 now. Drew with a $10 super chat. What? I don't know what that word is. Sickering is ridiculous. No women do that. I know it's over, but damn, it's so stupid. What is sickering? I don't even know what that is. Is this something new that women do now? It sounds sexual. What is that? Sickering? Here we go. Drew with a follow-up super chat. Says scissor, and he misspelled it again. So that is a double botch. That is a double botch by Drew. But he donated a lot, so I'm not going to pick on him too bad. Joseph Brooks with the $9.99. Do I think Undertaker would not have gotten hurt in 99, or had he not gotten hurt in 99? Would he still have done the biker gimmick? I noticed in his promos he started sounding like a human. As opposed to what? He sound like a bird? I mean, even if he was undead, he would still technically be human, would he not? I mean, did he sound like a giraffe? Did he sound like a rhino? Did he sound like a cat? What did he sound like exactly? Yeah, I think he would have evolved. Undertaker has made a career out of changing things up when he feels like he's getting stale or just to, freshen the act up a little bit. So maybe it wouldn't have been the year 2000, but yeah, I do think he would have eventually morphed into Biker Taker. We have Junker with a $20 super chat. Hey, Junker, thank you. Gentle on James. What if in Halloween Ends, Busta Rhymes and Bruce Willis show up and say, trick or treat, motherfucker, and yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, and double team Michael? That sounds awful. Thank God that you are not writing the new Halloween movie. I am very sad, though, when I read about Bruce Willis and the illness that he's dealing with. When I heard about that a few months ago, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a pretty... He's had to retire from making movies. It's I don't think it's MS, but it's some horrible disease like that I think is like a chronic, progressively bad thing. So I was very sad to hear that. Die Hard is one of my all-time favorite movies. One of the greatest movies ever made. Scott Woodford, happy Thursday. I got my Valve Steam Deck and going to get WWE 2K22 for it. Well, that's awesome. I have a friend of mine who also has the Steam Deck, and he loves it. So enjoy. Enjoy, Scott. Were Scott at the show last night? Scott, tell me if you were at the show. I feel like you were at the show last night. Or you told me that you were. Spicy Dried Chicken. I'll admit I have started watching NXT once again. I was feeling pretty desensitized by AEW's presentation and the pacing. Joseph Solomonster, I'm sorry to ask this rhetorical question, but my friend insists that I ask you this. Buy or sell on the better promo, CM Punk or Randy Savage? Randy Savage. I didn't even have to think twice. Randy Savage. I base my promos on what I find to be entertaining, and there is almost nobody more, maybe The Rock, but there is almost nobody more entertaining than Randy Savage was during promos back in his day. So that was not a very difficult question to answer. Scott says he was in Minnesota. Well, then I saw somebody who looked very, very similar to you last night. You have a twin. You have a twin here in New York. Food Hive. The way MJF was talking about AEW in his interview with Ariel Helwani makes me feel like he is not going anywhere. He was defending and championing the company. Well, he's not going anywhere for a while. But I think he would have been out of his mind unless Tony Khan offered him a new deal and absolutely just blew him away with a money figure. His contract is going to come due in 2024, and I think it would be very dumb for him to sign anything now. I would wait for the bidding war. There's no reason for him to sign anything right now. David Meltzer. A couple of years ago, I compared Mox to Austin, MJF to Rock, and Cody to Triple H. How do you think that statement has aged so far? I don't really like the comparisons like that because it's almost unfair to somebody like Moxley to make that comparison. You can't compare anybody to Steve Austin. I mean, you can compare the fact that he's maybe got a rebellious personality. Maybe that's the closest comparison I would make. I don't see any other direct comparisons between Austin and Moxley. Austin is Austin. Moxley is Moxley. MJF has charisma for days, just like Rock did. But again, I don't look at MJF and go, "Oh, that's The Rock." Like I never think of The Rock when I look at MJF. Cody and Triple H. Cody's had this obsession with Triple H for years, and I know he's very upset that Triple H retired because he desperately wanted to work with him, and now he can't. So, I don't think of any of those three names you mentioned, the newer guys, and think of the other three that you've attached to them. I just think that they kind of stand alone on their own. I used to look at Eli Drake and think, okay, this guy is trying way too hard to be The Rock and Stone Cold. It was so obvious in his promos. And he's overcome that. But no, I don't think that Moxley and Austin deserve to be compared. M. Sund, $7 super chat. I predict the hammer blow Cassidy took to the head changes his personality. More violent and serious. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Orange Cassidy is going to have to evolve at some point as well. He's one of those characters that he's still over, but it would be nice to see him incorporate certain, changes to his personality. He doesn't have to be serious all the time, but maybe you piss him off, or he gets hit in the head or something and he just snaps and goes crazy, something like that. First timer. Can you explain the Vincent Kennedy McMahon and John Cena Yeah, I mean, that was on a pay-per-view. What pay-per-view is that? Wasn't that like Survivor Series or something? It was many years ago. It was a very dumb segment. Vince McMahon was trying to be, I guess, I don't know, hip and cool or whatever, and use slang and whatever, and they thought it was comedy, and it was very dumb. You know what I thought was entertaining was Vince coming out in the do-rag after he got shaved bald at WrestleMania by Bobby Lashley and Stone Cold, and he was trying to avoid showing his bald head, and so he had the do-rag on, and he was coming out like that. Was, to me, that was funny. That was entertaining. McMahonism. He was talking about McMahonism. He was the ECW champion. It was so dumb. I mean, it's not like the ECW title back then meant anything anyway. Shin Akuma, in the words of DiBiase, I'm here. Welcome, Shin. Junker, dude, where's my car? It's in the junkyard. Brian Pissarro with the $35 super chat. Oh my God, Brian, you're a beast. Amigo, done. Esta mi. Well, the Ultimate Warrior is blocking the super chat. Jackalope Music, I'll get back to you in a second. Jackalope Music says, Saraya's submission is a thing of beauty. Can you recommend one or two best of all-time submissions? I've always been a big fan of the crossface chicken wing, Bob Backlund's chicken wing, when he would like lock it in. So I'm a chicken wing guy. I love the old Lion Tamer when Jericho would lean all the way back. Obviously, I love the sharpshooter. But Bryant here is, for whatever reason, he has super chatted in Spanish. Amigo don esta mi coche. Spanish version of Dude, Where's My Car? Is that what it is? Amigo. Oh, I think you mean donde, not done. Even I know that. I think it's donde está mi coche. Right? Do I have it right? Is it donde está mi coche? That show was so long last night. It was muy antipático. Sean D, I gotta say, I am terrified of potentially seeing this young lady get re-injured in the ring. I hope she is medically okay if she wrestles again. She should only wrestle again if a doctor checks her and says that it is safe for her to get back in the ring. I don't want to see her get crippled up either. But I think that if a doctor or more than one doctor says that it's okay for her, it's safe for her to have at least one match, then why should she not have the opportunity to get back in the ring like a lot of the men have, who had career-ending injuries and potentially life-threatening injuries? If they take one bad bump, they came back, they were able to resume their careers. Why can't she? If a doctor says it's okay, then I don't have an issue with it. And then at that point, you just got to be safe. I wouldn't want to see her taking German suplexes. There are safe ways to get back in the ring and wrestle a match without having to be dumped on the back of your fucking head. Spicy Dry Chicken. Tony Khan should put 3 AEW women's matches on Dynamite every 3 weeks. There's top male stars. Their top male stars are already over. Give them the night off and they will be fine. Joseph Brooks, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but do you think Paige could have a career resurgence like Shawn Michaels did with his second WWE run and Angle's run in TNA? You are getting way ahead of yourself. Yes, I would not be expecting a Shawn Michaels-esque comeback for Paige. Spicy Dried Chicken. Kevin Dunn shape-shifting as an AEW television producer. It felt like it, with all those cutaways to MJF in the main event. I'm glad. The Lair Productions says, I am glad the Acclaimed are tag team champions. AEW knows how to strike when the iron is hot, unlike WWE on tag teams. Tag teams Crime Time, Enzo and Cass, etc. Well, that was part of the old era. Now we're in the Triple H era. So I would hope that Triple H does a better job with his tag teams than Vince McMahon did. Bob the Builder. He has built a $3 super chat here. Thoughts on CM Punk? His contract buyout, one of the best and worst careers of his career. So he had a career within a career. That's very impressive. It's like one of those Russian tea dolls. Says, I think we never see him ever wrestle again. Go Mets, go. Well, that is something I can get behind. Go Mets, go indeed. Right now, that is only a rumor. I don't see that confirmed anywhere. The rumor, and I believe it was Wade Keller who made mention of this on one of his Torch audio shows. He is like me in that I am not expecting CM Punk to be back. I don't think CM Punk should be back. I think CM Punk should be fired. I think CM Punk needs to be gone from AEW. He believes that there may be or may have been a contract buyout. He also does not believe that we will ever see CM Punk in an AEW ring again. But that is not confirmed. So I just want to put that out there. That's the rumor going around. That's his belief, but nothing has been reported on that. We still don't have any comment from Tony Khan or the company on the investigation where it comes to the Bucks or CM Punk. We have no idea what's going on. But Conan did say that Kenny Omega was supposed to be in the main event of Triple Mania or on the Triple Mania card. And he will not be. And Triple Mania, I don't think is until, I want to say mid-October. So if Kenny Omega is off the Triple Mania card due to suspension, this may not be a 30-day suspension type situation. This suspension could go on for a while. Valiant Orion with the $5 super chat. Biggest heels on the show were the people in the crowd who kept raising their NWO belt in front of the camera. Well, they take it very seriously when the NWO said it was for life. So they're just they're living the NWO credo. I can't blame them for that. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, no lie, it's kind of funny watching this on mute. Do I sound better on mute? As long as I get your fucking like, you can do whatever you want. Drew McIncock went to Raw and Dominic's segment was hilarious live. I don't know if that's the reaction they're going for. I also kind of laughed at his stuff on Monday. Just Cruz, $4.99, was at the show, an amazing first AEW event. For me, I listen to you almost daily on my Van Wyck work commute. Let me tell you something about the Van Wyck. The Van Wyck sucks, okay? I want to tell you a little story here. So I told you guys that I wasn't going to be able to go live on Monday night for the Raw stream. The reason is I had a work event out in Connecticut on Tuesday. I was going to be out there all day long, and I had to get an early start on my commute. So I end up on the Van Wyck. And for those of you who are not from New York, if you are not from the tri-state area, then you may not be familiar. You may be like, what's the Van Wyck? The Van Wyck is the single worst stretch of road that you will ever drive. Hopefully will never have the misfortune of driving on in your entire life. They even joked about it on Seinfeld that time, when Elaine was trying to get her horrible boyfriend to the airport to get him the hell out of here. She was going to make it in time, but then she hit the Van Wyck, right? That episode was probably filmed in like 1990 or 1991. Okay, the Van Wyck has only gotten worse since then. I'm driving on the Van Wyck, and you're always guaranteed to have traffic on the Van Wyck, right? I'm not even talking about the traffic. I'm coming underneath one of the overpasses, okay? Now I'm in traffic, so I can only go so fast. I can only go as fast as the traffic in front of me. And so I'm saying, please, when I get out from under this overpass, please don't let me get stuck under the overpass. okay, because they have birds up there and everything, and I just cleaned my car. Please don't let me get stuck under there. I go under the overpass, and as I'm coming out, I shit you not, this must have been a flock of Canadian geese. They must have had a fucking goddamn steak dinner the night before. Because as I'm driving out, it's like they bombed me. Okay? It's like bombs away. And this car that I just cleaned, I swear to God, it looked like paint. They they gave me a paint job, all right. They repainted my car. I couldn't even see. I couldn't even see it. You know what it reminded me of? I used to play the Mario Kart thing on the Nintendo Switch, right? Mario Kart. I'd be playing it, and you remember how the squid would hit you in the windshield of your car? Like you'd get squidded, and you couldn't see a fucking thing? That's what this looked like. The birds, they drop all over the windshield. I hear it, it's on the roof. I see it's on the back windshield. I can't see. I'm in the middle of the Van Wyck. I'm in the middle lane. I can't go to the left. I can't go to the right. I got trucks up my ass over here. I can't see. These fucking birds. It's like they waited and they knew. They said, Solomonster is coming out from underneath. Let's wait and do it all at the same time, and we'll just take fucking 5 dumps on this guy's car. So that pissed me off right there. Tuesday morning. That was a hell of a way for me to start my day. When I got to the client, and I parked my car in the parking lot, and I got out of the car, I should have you know what I should have done? I should have taken a picture, and I should have tweeted it. I got out of the car. I didn't even realize when I opened the door and I slammed the door shut, it was in the door handle, okay? I had bird shit on my hand from the door handle. The windshield had it, the back windshield, the side windows on both sides, the roof, the trunk, the hood, all of it. All of it. It was embarrassing. Fuck those birds. Anyway. You mentioned the Van Wyck. Look what you've done. Just Cruz mentioned the Van Wyck. It was like a trigger word for me. And you completely set me off there. So fuck the Van Wyck and fuck those birds. And whatever the hell they ate. What are these birds eating anyway? That they would be shitting that much? It's ridiculous. Who's feeding these birds? Anyway, Sky Genie Channel. $3 super chat. CM Punk gets suspended. It's the end of his career. Max Caster gets suspended, and he is now a top act in AEW. Well, it's because people like Max Caster in the back. He's very well liked. Yeah, they are stupid birds on the van. I'm telling you, these are not normal birds. These are not pigeons. These are geese. Maybe they're ducks. Maybe they got up above somehow. I don't know, man. I don't get it. I just don't get it. At that exact moment, how does that happen? At that exact moment that I came out from underneath, it's like they were waiting for me. Then they were laughing at me as I drove off. Look at this fucking guy. Pisses me off. Yeah, how bad it was. So I get there, just to finish the story out here, right? So I get there, I park my car, I get out, I see the damage. I do what I have to do. I'm gonna be there all day, right? But I have like a gap in the middle, and I go to somebody, I go, look, where's the nearest car wash? I don't know where the fuck I am. I'm in the middle of Connecticut. Just point me in the direction of a car wash, or I'm gonna use Waze. And they're like, oh no, we have a car wash. You should go to this one. It's like 1.5 miles down the road, right? So I go to this car wash, and I pull in there, and I'm completely embarrassed now driving this car around. This guy's looking at me as I'm pulling in, like, you know, like I haven't gotten a car wash in like 5 years. And I said, I just need a basic wash. And he goes, are you sure about that? I go, yeah, just basic wash. And he's trying to sell me on this package or whatever. You know, if you're we have a monthly package here. I go, I don't even live here, okay? So just give me the basic package. So I go through the car wash, and I come out, and I pull my car over, and I get out, and there's still bird shit all over the car. It only got some of the bird shit out. Like, I'm talking gobs of shit that are still on the car. So I went in my trunk, and I took a rag, and I had a spray bottle, And I had to manually scrub all of this shit out. And I eventually was able to get it. But I had to like manually scrub. Like the car wash wasn't even strong enough. It wasn't powerful enough to get rid of all this bird shit. So that was my day. Fucking birds. Hope they all fucking die. Food Hive. Well, Kenny, let me go Kenny first. Kenny Emmanuel or Emmanuel. I gotta settle down here. Kenny Manuel. There we go. $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Food Hive. From your public relations background, what do you make of the Udoka Boston Celtics situation? A year-long suspension. This is unprecedented. So I did hear about that, and from my understanding, I believe he violated team policy or league policy by, it was a consensual relationship with someone else he worked with, but it wasn't reported, but I think he's married, so I don't have all the details. I don't have all the details. It seems excessive to me. I will say that. Without having all of the details about exactly what he did wrong, it seems very excessive. That's my first. He has to be punished. If he violated policy, he has to be punished in some way. A year-long suspension, missing the entire season, that seems very excessive. Abanov, $5 super chat. How stupid is it that the guy who started the drama and by going into business for himself gets a title match? Clearly a double standard. What are your thoughts? I mean, look, he wasn't involved in the actual fisticuffs that happened at All Out. You're talking about a comment and a promo that he made back in May. I don't blame Hangman Page for it. That was on Tony Khan. If Tony Khan would have talked to him about it after that promo at the end of May, maybe all of this could have been avoided. Or if CM Punk went to Tony Khan and said, what the fuck? Maybe they would have been able to talk it out back then. Why is CM Punk bringing it up in September in a media scrum? Why, because he was hurt? He couldn't pick up a fucking phone in those months and call Tony Khan or reach out to Hangman Page in some way and say, you got a problem with me? You got a beef with me? Why don't we talk about this? No, he sat at home in his home in Chicago stewing for 3 fucking months, won the championship, had this great main event match, and then decided to make the press conference all about him and all about a completely unrelated situation. I don't hold Hangman Page responsible for any of this. This is on CM Punk and Tony Khan for allowing it to explode in the way that it did. If they had a problem with Hangman, take it up with Hangman. What is this, I'm gonna wait 3 months until I'm all healed up and get back to give you a receipt? I don't get that. Be a fucking adult. If you have a problem with the guy, talk to him about it. You have a big mouth. CM Punk has one of the biggest fucking mouths in all of wrestling. He got over on his promos. Right? Mr. Pipe Bomb. You mean to tell me that he can't go talk to this guy and let him know that, hey, what you did, that wasn't cool. You got a problem with me, you come talk to me about it. You don't go on TV and go into business for yourself. Are we going to have a problem? Is this going to happen again? That's it. Apparently CM Punk is only real tough when he's on TV doing his TV persona and he goes out there and he cuts a promo. Apparently he can't walk down the hall and go talk to somebody when they have a problem. Again, this all could have been, I'm not going to relitigate this. This all could have been avoided. I don't blame Hangman Page. He said what he said. It was stupid. It didn't make any sense, but nobody called him out on it. So, that's it. The statute of limitations has expired. But I find it funny that CM Punk, he's got, such a sharp tongue, more than most in pro wrestling, and he chose to wait to get all of that off of his chest and speak his mind instead of actually either confronting the guy or saying something to his boss about it, since apparently it bothered him so much. He sat at home with a bad foot for 3 months, waiting to get his revenge and waiting to get his receipt. I find that to be completely ridiculous. I can't think of another occupation in life where if I had a problem with somebody, I would wait for 3 months and I would plan and plot what I was going to do and what I was going to say. I can't imagine that. I can't for the life of me imagine that ever happened. EJ Slemp with the $4.99. I put a poll up in the Facebook group asking what is the greatest War Games match of all time, 91 or 92? And with 92% of the vote, 92 takes it. Do I agree? Yes. The War Games in 92, I believe that was the Dangerous Alliance against Sting Squadron. That is the best War Games match of all time. I have said as much on the podcast. Queen Fire Panda, hey Mr. Monster, when I become a wrestler, do you want to be my manager or call my first match? Well, I mean, hey, when you become a wrestler, if you end up in House of Glory, I'll get to call your match. I'll give you a nice shout out too. But you got to get there first. EJ Slamp, do you think the Great Muta had the most successful career of any Japanese pro wrestler here in the States? Yeah, that's a good one. I think so. Here in the U.S., probably. I'm trying to think of another Japanese, like big Japanese star from overseas who came here and had a career in the U.S. that was as successful as Muta. I mean, look, some people might say Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, it's a different time. Some people might say Nakamura, but I think Muta probably would be the right answer to that question, I would say. Spicy Dried Chicken, just for only logical reasons, it's time for AEW to do 2-night events. 6-hour wrestling is too long. Bob the Builder, you think WWE ever runs Arthur Ashe? Probably. Yeah, probably one day. Or actually, you know what? You know what they would do? You know what I could see WWE doing? Triple H would totally do this to fuck with Tony Khan. So Tony Khan went off on the press scrum about how, I'm not going to take this fucking shit anymore, because they did 2 pay-per-views the same weekend as All Out. I got more money than they do. How funny would it be if the next time AEW runs Arthur Ashe, which probably would be next September, and it's always a risk to do a show outdoors in the Northeast in September, although September you tend to get pretty good weather. I could see Triple H running Citi Field. Can you imagine Triple H running Citi Field where the Mets play? Big outdoor stadium show with 40,000 people at the same time or the same weekend or same week that AEW is running Arthur Ashe, which is like 1.5 miles away. I could totally see Triple H doing that to fuck with them. I think WWE at Citi Field actually would be pretty badass. I'd go to that show over the Arthur Ashe. Darth Panic, do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie? Absolutely. We've answered this already. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Lakers Pats 1. Swerve Bloodline turns on Jay for being a hater. Nah, I don't see it. So Jay's out of the Bloodline now. He's just Jey Uso on his own. I don't see it. Bob the Builder, Omega's contract is running out soon. Very interesting. Yes, January of 2024. But the belief is that Tony Khan will be able to add as many as 9 months onto the contract for all the time he missed when he was out hurt. So it could be a situation where even though his contract is up in January, he's bound until October of next year. Awaken by Assembly. Just subscribe to the channel. Sky Genie, I was thinking about your idea of Ray passing his mask on to Dom. Now that he is doing his dark, kinky gimmick with Rhea Ripley, I am not so sure. I am not too sure now. Groovy Goose, as a goose, I apologize for our American brethren. It's not your fault, but you better have a conversation with your little bird friends over there. You better have a conversation with your little birdie friends over there. One of these days, Solomonster is going to be driving down the Van Wyck with his BB gun. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, on behalf of our Canadian geese, I apologize. King Bling Blah, what's the biggest match that we never got? Stone Cold Steve Austin against Hulk Hogan. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, Van Wyck and geese should be banned. Banned words here. Yes, they are officially banned. I'm officially banning the Van Wyck. Even though I will have to be on the Van Wyck, even if I take a lift to the show on Saturday, which I probably will. I need to be on the Van Wyck to get to House of Glory. So I'm going to be on the Van Wyck again this weekend. I can't get away from it. I can't get away from it. No wonder I hate Von Wagner so much on NXT. It reminds me too much of Van Wyck. Should have a wrestler named Van Wyck. He'd be the biggest heel in the business. Spicy dried chicken. I was feeding the geese bread with TurboTax. I was feeding the geese bread with TurboTax? What the hell does that mean? Is that an L or a T? Oh, that's an L. Oh, God. I thought that was a T. Oh my God, I thought that was a T. Man, I gotta get glasses or I gotta get fucking LASIK or something. I thought that said T. I was like, what the fuck? TurboTax? Oh, man. Oh. Oh. Oh, man. Oh, boy. I was about to say, that didn't make any sense at all. That did not make any sense at all. I was feeding the geese bread with TurboTax, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Love lie. As someone who worked at a car wash, tunnels suck. Yes, they do. Shinakuma, sadly, Aaliyah has been around since the show Breaking Ground under the name Nymph or something. Yeah, she had a different name at that time. You guys are gonna kill me one of these days, man. Food Hive, please clip that Van Wyck story. I was eating some chicken leg quarters and nearly choked to death laughing. Holy shit, bird crap and tree sap. Hilarious. Bird crap and tree sap. You remember that, huh? Yeah, I talked about that on the podcast before. I've had that issue here in Brooklyn too. Oh, believe me, I parked my car under a tree. You get bird crap, you get tree sap. You can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. What am I supposed to do? Buy a sheet and put it over my car? My car's not that nice. It's not nice enough to put a sheet over it. Bird crap and tree sap. I just can't get away from it. Magician Sapphire, this is why Garfield hates Mondays. Solomonster got air rated. Yes, I did. Dial GA627, thank you for the $4.99. The Yatagaratsu, there's an irony that a pipe bomb made / elevated CM Punk's career, and a pipe bomb has more than likely killed his career just as definitively. Yes. Yes, indeed. It is It is quite ironic, isn't it? Spicy Dried Chicken, what is your thoughts on the reported details of Kenny Omega's speech in the AEW talent meeting back in August? Very misguided, very stupid, it sounds like. If those comments are to be believed. Something about how I wouldn't have hired 8 out of 10 of you. But I've also heard that he was saying that tongue-in-cheek, and it was directed in part to Will Ospreay, who was there that night in the meeting. So I wasn't there. I've heard so many conflicting things about this meeting. It almost sounds impossible to conceive that it was said in anything other than jest. Like, if he said that in all seriousness, that was a very stupid thing for him to say to a locker room full of people. But I have to think that that was said with, it was just a poor joke, and it was said in a humorous way. But people didn't take it in a humorous way. I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know. The Sky Genie channel, please put this towards the alcoholic drink of choice for enduring the long taping and doing this live stream a day later. Thank you. Hey, Edwin, what's up? Queen Fire Panda. My finisher will be a power bomb off the top rope, and I shall call it the Panda Bomb. I'll also do a splash off the top rope called the Monster Splash. Well, you're already halfway home. You've already got names for all your big moves. I like the Panda Bomb. But I wouldn't be doing a power bomb off the top rope. See, I would recommend picking a finishing move that you could also use on a bigger opponent. You're not going to be able to power bomb a person twice your size from the top rope. So, think about your career in the long term, and don't pick a move that's going to do damage to your body the way that Hogan's leg drop wrecked his back, or Randy Orton's having back problems now. It's from all those years landing on his back with the RKO. It's a great finish, but it's fucked up his back. Try to pick a move that 20 years from now you'll be able to still do it. That would be my recommendation. Corbin Rogers, $5 super chat. I have been a listener going back to the SE Scoops live days. Oh my goodness. Shout out to SE Scoops, by the way, SEScoops.com. Any update on when we may get them old SE Scoops live shows uploaded to the members only? Yes, I have to go through the other. I have them all. The first one is up for the Legends tier members. It's been up for a few months now. I'm trying to prioritize the other older shows first, but yes, I have to put that on my list to get the other ones up. Episode 2 is the next one that needs to go up, so they will be going up for those channel members. Abanov, I asked because Fightful said Punk spoke to higher-ups about it. I think you talked about it on YouTube on the Punk backstage drama segment. Do you fire the Bucks? It depends on what the investigation finds. I think if this investigation were to come back and say that the Punks, the Bucks are the Punks, that the Bucks instigated the fight, or if they were doing other stuff that really instigated the entire situation that they could prove, I think that they could be on the bubble, and maybe Tony Khan should get rid of them too. I don't know how complicated that would be given their status as EVPs. But just knowing what we know right now, I would not fire the Bucks. I would strip them of their EVP titles for sure, but I would not fire them. Punk is the one who went off at the press scrum. Punk is the one who embarrassed the company. Punk is the one who embarrassed his boss. And apparently is the one who threw the first punch in the fight, too. So, he's got to go. The Bucks, though, we have to wait and see what they find out. Food Hive, were the birds yelling mine like on Finding Nemo? No, I didn't hear anything except splat, so I don't know what they were saying. I'm pretty sure they were laughing, though. Magician Sapphire, can't wait for Duck Hunt, Solomonster edition. Scott Woodford, Kevin Nash made fun of CM Punk, had me rolling. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, our geese wants to present this L to you. Sorry. King Bling Blah, anyone from Lucha Underground that should be a big star that isn't. Yeah, his name is Santos Escobar. And I'm hoping that Triple H will have him up on the main roster very soon and that he will find success because he deserves it. Food Hive says, once again, a tax joke pops Solomonster. Something about taxes, I guess. I don't know. And Thomas with the $5 super chat. It's great to have you back. Seeing Paige was a treat. Dynamite was excellent. Great having you back. Thank you, Thomas. It's good to be back. It is good to be back. And like I said, we'll be back in our normal spot with all the streams next week. Geese 1, Solomonster 0. I'll have my revenge. I'll have my revenge. You know, one of these days I'm gonna be in a parking lot driving, and I'm gonna see a bunch of them, and I'm gonna hit the gas. And if they don't move fast enough, sorry, we're supposed to have an agreement. It's not my fault if they break the agreement and they don't move. Sorry, my foot slipped. You know what you call that? Roadkill. That's what you call that. All right, so you guys hit our likes goal, which means only one thing here. It is time, after nearly a week, to be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
It's been almost a week since we've done one of these Be the Booker segments. So why don't we get right into it, not waste any time. Try to book ourselves some matches and see how we do. We begin with Joseph Park Esquire from Impact Wrestling, the brother of Chris, you know, Abyss. Back when I was still watching Impact full time, it's probably about 10 years ago now. This guy right here, this guy was my guilty pleasure character on the show. He's a big fan of Joe Park. Let's see who he will be stepping into the ring with. Joseph Park Esquire, 1-on-1 against MDK for life. It is Nick Gage. I'm not a Nick Gage guy. So, pretty much anything with Nick Gage is going to get the buzzer from me. Not my thing. But, you know, given Mr. Park and his brother and the hardcore matches that they had in TNA, I'm sure it would be a bloodbath. Not my thing. Let's go to the ladies. Let's pick a female match. We begin with Lita. Look at the lovely Lita. Yeah, she looks great in that image. There's Lita. Sure, Rebby Sky, her ears are ringing and her blood pressure is rising somewhere. Got Lita going 1-on-1 with Luna Vachon. That's a good one. That's a good one. So many people I would have loved to have seen Luna Vachon in the ring with. But, it was not to be. But Luna and Lita. I like that. Lita and Luna. Hey, Nemo Buddha. Just subscribe to the channel. Sasha Banks against Luna Vachon. What kind of match would that have been? That would have been a pretty good match too, huh? Sasha and Luna. Let's go to the tag team side and wrap this bad boy up. We are about to hit 3 hours here on this stream. Glad I started this at 8 p.m. That's why I started at 8 o'clock. I said, if we go long, at least we won't be wrapping up too late. All right, let's pick a tag team. We have Private Party. Straight out of House of Glory. Now on the AEW roster, although you would never know it. They are in the Battle Royal, by the way. They are in the Battle Royal on Rampage tomorrow night. We have got Private Party stepping into the ring to take on the team of, oh, look who it is, everybody. It is the Young Bucks. You know what's funny about that I had the opportunity to call the very last Young Bucks match on the independent scene. And it was the Young Bucks in House of Glory taking on Private Party. And I got to call that match, and it was a hell of a match. So that definitely gets the bell from me. That is Be the Booker. Good shit. Good shit, yes. It's been done before, but I'm trying to book great matches here, and that would be a great match. Boots with the $5 super chat says, until I started watching WWE again, all this time you were talking about Aaliyah. I thought you were referring to Rey Mysterio's daughter. No. No. Definitely not. That Aaliyah might be a better wrestler than the other one. Dr. Dakota Scorpio, the Geese could be the Mets mascot. I don't know why they're not. They're all over Queens. Instead of having a giant baseball as a mascot, they may as well have a fucking bird. Every time a Mets player hits a home run, it takes a shit in the outfield. That would make more sense. Spicy Dried Chicken. Geese are from Atlanta, and they hate your Mets. Yeah, they would be from Atlanta. Fucking Atlanta geese. You keep your birds down there in Atlanta. We have enough birds here in New York. We don't need birds from down south. Though I guess that's where they come from, right? Fly down south, they come back. Food Hive with the $4.99. Luna's son is a chef out of Dallas named Van. He was a contestant on Hell's Kitchen Season 6. He really got me into cooking being from Dallas. Yes, I mentioned that on the podcast, I believe, once. It was pointed out to me. I didn't know that until then. And I'm trying to think when I would have talked about that. But I definitely talked about it within the past year on the podcast. But yes, he was on Season 6 of Hell's Kitchen. How long have I been a Mets fan? As long as I can remember, since 86, probably. 86, 87, somewhere around then. Ah, yes, Dark Side of the Ring. That's what it was. It was probably in my Dark Side of the Ring review. You're right. You are right. All right, so anyway, that is my recap of the festivities, the very eventful day that I had yesterday in Queens for Dynamite and Rampage, which now you can watch on TV tomorrow night. You can see Sting in action and all the other stuff that I will not spoil for those of you who tuned out for that portion of the show. But you will have a very good Rampage tomorrow night. We will only be doing SmackDown, though. I'm not going to re-review the show. So I'll be live at about 10:20 after SmackDown goes off. If you want to watch Rampage, you can watch Rampage and have me on in the background. Just as long as you support the stream and give me a like and stop on by and join the chat, I'm a happy guy. Maze the Great, channel member for 16 months, says, as of this past Monday, I am a 25-year-old man. Boy, you're getting old. You're a quarter of a century old. You realize that? It's pretty old. Uffman Entertainment, I was conceived in Queens, so my parents have told me, let's go Mets. Were you conceived in a car on the Van Wyck? Were your parents on the way to the hospital? They probably got stuck in traffic on the Van Wyck. I bet you they gave birth in the back seat. You're a Van Wyck baby. All right, well, I'm out of here. We have gone officially 3 hours here on this stream tonight. One of the longest streams I have done in a very long time here on the channel. But we all had fun, I hope. I hope you've enjoyed this. I did miss hanging out with you guys last night. Again, I will be live tomorrow night for the SmackDown stream. We will do SmackDown tomorrow, and then we will be... I guess we'll be back live on Monday. We have the Monday Night Raw stream coming up on Monday, episode 775, of course. of the podcast on Sunday, as always. And House of Glory, if you would like to tune in, we should be live again on Fight TV Saturday night. House of Glory Genesis. Got a lot of good matches on the show. Check out House of Glory's social media for all the matches. And if you learned nothing else from this stream tonight, if you take away nothing else from anything I have told you tonight, always remember, then, now, and forever, fuck the Van Wyck. I'll see you tomorrow night.